Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart,
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care, keep your family safe at home, and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at Bank of Guam.
Zaitan odos tiochosan Hagu nitiunanengan Hagu Vamanui umananan Hagu nakaisa bulina laun Hagu manoki mangwi fitalu Ayan hagu munayu konslemun Ida hagu nausada iyan limun Consistency isin teteku Fanning ginugo sa Guam hongkihau Zaitan odos tiochosan Zaitan odos tiochosan
Yeah, I had to let that one rock a little bit for Sabrina's her jam.
Zaitan odos
And that's Amani and Mixed Plate. All good. Hey, good morning. Good morning, Guam. Yeah, good morning.
Woohoo!
Right on. It's Containing COVID, the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite, and it's all so proudly sponsored by IT&E, Ambrose Inc., Cabo Enterprises, Coast 360, and the Bank of Guam. As it's real information in real time, we're going to squeeze as much info into the next 3 hours and 32 minutes of multimedia broadcast extravaganza as we can. We're going to slam that info, get on top of it, and jump down and smash it and then put some more on there.
Hi, Jason.
Good morning.
Hey, Jay.
Is
morning.
it slightly a little cold this morning? I needed a sweater when I came into work. I was like, it's colder out. I don't know why. It's technically
Jason
summertime.
Salas playing left field for KUAM.
Well, I just noticed something. What material is the mask you guys are using? It's got like a certain sheen to it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's cool, though.
It's just one of those regular masks.
Oh, so it's like a surgical mask.
It's a
but
little
black.
harder, Brie. It feels a little harder than the normal. But I like it because it's like blackout, like Raiders, you know?
Does it have like the
Like
wire?
we're
on
wearing
the
our
nose?
black mask. We mean business today. That's going to be the new sign. When you see the black mask, it means somebody woke up on the wrong side of the futon.
Watch out.
And you don't know if it's me or her or him. Good morning. 6:30, so many ways to catch the show. Of course, right here on the radio is Guam's favorite. Thank you, man, to Andy Wheeler and the I-94 family for letting us move in here and take over and bring you Containing COVID. Also, there's an audio stream, Docomo Channel 10. We're streaming live, KUAM.com and the KUAM News app. And then at 8 o'clock, we flick on the switch, KUAM TV 11, and boom, right on the TV. It's like magic. That's how we do it.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. You all right over there?
Yeah, I was gonna wipe the.
I wiped everything down for you, Bree.
Okay.
Yeah, that's our division of labor here. I come in and I'm the disinfector. And I'm a very liberal disinfectant. I'm like, Sean! We got to clear out the fumes like 15 minutes before we go on. How was your night, Bree?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, good?
Yeah.
She's just ready to go because there's a lot of stuff that's going on. We had our first press conference in a couple of weeks. Well, technically, though, the week before last, Dr. Cabrera, Dr. Doom, as we love to call him here on the show, he did a solo thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
He did a solo press conference. He held it down, dude.
Yeah.
He
I
held
mean,
it
it
down
was important information he had to
Right.
get out with the new quarantine protocols.
I mean, that was like a 2-hour solo deal. So we're going to get Doc on the show tomorrow. He's kind of busy today working on a bunch of stuff, but he said, the stuff I'm working on, you're going to want to know about. So hopefully we'll get him on to share it with us tomorrow. So there was a lot of stuff that came out of that press conference. So let's get right to it, shall we? with a dive into the day's COVID-19 headlines from the KUAM News team with the very latest. Good morning, Sabrina Salas-Mantanani.
Off a day, everyone. We start with the latest numbers. Public Health tested 103 individuals for COVID on Monday, and 2 tested positive. The number of COVID cases on Guam has risen to 224, with 5 deaths, 173 recoveries, and 46 active cases. 182 are classified as civilians, 42 are military service members. Meanwhile, during a press conference at Adelup on Monday, military officials offered little information about the 35 service members of a deployed Air Force unit who recently tested positive for the coronavirus. An unknown number of them apparently broke with restricted movement protocol and left the Reef Hotel where they were staying to patronize local businesses. How many, where, and when? Officials say they're still trying to trace that. Nestor Lecanto reports.
Joint Region Marianas Commander Admiral John Minoni.
There are investigations ongoing, both public health and a command investigation, which will shed light on how and why this situation happened. Today, we don't have all the facts as to how and why, so it would be counterproductive to speculate.
And Anderson 36th Wing Commander Brigadier General Gentry Boswell.
Preliminary evidence in the public health investigation revealed the possibility that some of these members may not have adhered to the Anderson or local public health directives. If the ensuing investigation determines that members did not follow these directives in a disciplined manner, I can assure you they will be held accountable for their actions under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
But the threat of exposure is out there, and military officials are working with public health to trace any contacts. But they can't say where they're looking or how many service members may have breached restricted movement protocol. General Boswell, citing operational security, would also not say where the unit came from or how many there are. He also could not say if they contracted the virus here or before they arrived. What he would say is that before this large cluster, their COVID screening process on Anderson was working.
We're pretty confident that our process works. It's the disciplined adherence to the protocols that will be the scope of the investigation.
We're constantly evaluating our processes and procedures to ensure we've got it right. There's never been a time that I know of in the military that we've had it perfect the first time. So we continually work through this.
All of the unit members have been tested and remain in isolation or quarantine on Anderson, where they were moved after the first case showed up. Meanwhile, Public Health's Linda DeNorsi says more than 70 workers from the Reef Hotel are also being tested. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
And here's more from that press conference as Nestor continued to press for answers.
My question is for General Boswell. General, from what we've been able to gather, there was a deployment from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas to Anderson in early May, 3 B-1 bombers and 200 servicemen to support that mission, although a 4th bomber went to Japan, I believe, before that, and then came to Guam. Can you tell us if this is the unit that we are talking about here? And also, when they arrived, were they made aware or even ordered to abide by restricted movement protocol? And apparently, did they disobey that order?
So let me start. The Bomber Task Force is not the unit we were discussing. They redeployed 2 weeks ago. But to answer your second question, all military units coming into Guam, no matter what their service, are required to follow our public health protocols. There is a reception process, regardless of where they come through Juan Pat, whether they come through the port or whether they come through our air base. So for us, we know the process of bringing them in is one of the things we're evaluating. But based on the fact that we've gone 4 months with only 4 cases in our population, we're pretty confident that our process works. It's the disciplined adherence to the protocols that will be the scope of the investigation.
So if you have advised them of the restricted movement protocol in particular, and they disobeyed that, so that they would be subject, as you said earlier, to the Military Code of Justice. So where is this unit from, and how many in the unit?
We're not going to discuss that. As I mentioned in my statement, we're not going to mention any of that due to operational security concerns.
as a result of what may have happened, and this could go to Admiral Minoni as well as JRM, are you planning any changes, modifications to the policy with respect to restricted movement, in particular for units that are deployed from out of Guam who come here?
Mister, we're working closely with the government of Guam and Department of Public Health, and we're constantly evaluating our processes and procedures to ensure we've got it right. There's never been a time that I know of in the military that we've had it perfect the first time. So we continually work through this, and we're teaming with Department of Public Health, the local government, the different bases to make sure we evaluate this over and over to make sure we get it as best and as tight as possible.
Despite the surge of 35 positive cases among military personnel, the governor still plans to reopen tourism next month. She says the metrics such as 0 hospitalizations and a rolling average of infections that's below the threshold still support it. To help launch the reopening of tourism, an island-wide cleanup campaign is scheduled for Saturday. Expanded testing, meanwhile, continues today. The testing, which is free, is being held at the GPD Police Coban parking lot next to the Barrigada Community Center from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Then tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Agana Heights Mayor's Office, and then Thursday in Jotnya in the parking lot between St. Francis Church and School. Again, testing 9 a.m. to 12 noon on both days. It is free, and you do not need to have symptoms to get tested. Just bring an ID. The first batch of PUA payments have been processed. According to the Guam Department of Labor, the total amounts to $35 million for claims that were filed between May 30th and June 1st. Electronic transfers and paper checks will be issued to air-free claims on a first-in, first-out basis. GDOL has advised those who have issues with their claims to email pua.hotline@dol.guam.gov. If claimants have already emailed, the PUA team will respond as soon as they can. The department has noted there is currently high volume of inquiries at this time. The Guam Department of Education State Agency for the Emergency Food Assistance Program will be distributing food boxes this Thursday and every other Thursday thereafter. This will allow for time to restock and replenish food commodity supplies. This Thursday's distribution sites are the Tidzan Upper Baseball Field and the Dedido Farmers Market from 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock in the morning. The governor, during her press conference on Monday, provided an update on the status of hardened shelters for the island's homeless. She also provided her reasons behind the transfer of John Birch as Director of Parks and Recs to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Birch last week in an interview told KUAM he gave the order to kick out homeless out of public parks such as Paseo so they can clean the parks to prepare to usher in tourists to rebuild the island's economy.
Initially, what we wanted to do was
Governor, what's your
what we wanted to do was take the Paseo and put tents in there for the homeless. Our information from the coalition and also from public health is that that is not satisfying to the guidelines and the public health requirements. So we had to have a hardened structure. As a result, we have gone out on an RFP, a request for proposal, to get hardened structures. We are in the process now of awarding it. We have identified a few of the facilities that came to the table, and we will short-term be moving these homeless individuals. But you know what, Heidi, I don't want to just move people and just leave them there. What I want to do is I want to do a wraparound service so that we can provide for their needs. Many of these homeless have mental health challenges. Many of them are also maybe drug addicted, substance abuse. So we want to provide the services to them so that they can, start rehabilitating or coming back to being a productive citizen of our community. So those are the services that I want to also provide, and not just the facilities. I want to provide the social services, the mental health services, and the medical services that we need for our homeless population. John Birch was not removed from his job because of the homeless program. In fact, I just want you to know that John was very instrumental in working with the homeless to try and get them a place that they can to have a better well-being and better life. And John Birch was part of the program, and he actually was the one that started alerting the homeless that they would have to be leaving where they're at to go to these facilities, and he informed them that we would have to get the facilities first. So his position was not removed because of that. I don't see that is the reason. No. We needed him somewhere where I think is also just as significant and important for the skills that he has.
National Airport Executive Manager Tom Atta has resigned from his position. The governor in a press release last night stated, quote, "It's with a heavy heart that Josh and I acknowledge the resignation of Tom Atta as executive manager. Tom's competence and counsel were essential to our COVID-19 response, and he will be sorely missed. He has dedicated decades of his life in service to the people of Guam, and I support his continued commitment to his family and grandchildren. Tom is a dear friend, and his work to make life better for our people is greatly appreciated." No reason was provided as to why he quit. In regional news, we bring in our Tomas Manglotnia live from Saipan. Hi, Tomas. Good morning.
Good morning, Bree and Chris. Here's the latest making news in the CNMI. As the FPUC and PUA applications are processed, KUAM sat back with the Micronesian Legal Services Corporation on the spike in their clients' needs assistance with housing, land, and other issues. Take a listen.
So we're working and providing information, providing advice. We have lots of brochures and materials that we've been giving out throughout the COVID pandemic. Our front door is covered with different kinds of things. One of the things that we've given out more than 100 tax return forms. People who are low income don't always have access to paper. They don't always have access to get up to the tax office to get their forms. And so we put out forms out there, people come and get them, then they can submit their own tax. And that became really important for the stimulus. So we have information out there right now. We have the PUA and FPUC application out there on the hard copy for those who don't have access to online.
And some updates in travel news from Star Marianas. Due to the increase in demand on June 29, they'll be implementing a new flight schedule between Saipan and Rota and will operate 2 flights per day on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. The updated schedule is found online at starmarianasair.com. And in some community news, the governor's office announcing that they're inviting the public at 10 a.m. via Facebook Live as they virtually proclaim the month of June in the CNMI as Pride Month. It will be live streamed from the CNMI office of the governor's Facebook page. And here are the latest numbers from the CNMI as they plan to announce village-based testing soon. The cumulative number of confirmed COVID-19 cases remains at 30 with 2 deaths. Saipan has still tested over just 7,000 people. Close to 500 people have been tested on Tinian, and close to 600 people have been tested on Rota. Bring Chris, that's the latest here in the CNMI.
Thanks, Tomas. Back to news here at home. Governor Lulian Guerrero sounding off on the ongoing U.S. House Ethics Investigative Subcommittee probe into Guam Delegate Michael St. Nicholas and his recent Father's Day message on local issues. He wrote in part, quote, "I am firmly resolved to shorten this labor of love if the people of Guam do not resoundingly change out the incompetence of local leadership."
Governor, what's your comment on the investigative subcommittee being formed by the U.S. House Ethics Committee to probe into allegations against Delegate Michael St. Nicholas? In a separate posting that you might have seen, he also wrote a Father's Day message. He said in that posting, "I'm firmly resolved to shorten this labor of love if the people of Guam do not resoundingly change out of the incompetence of local leadership." What's your comment on these developments and that message that was sent to the people of Guam by the delegate?
So my comment is it is a very serious situation when you form a subcommittee to investigate allegations. So I'm very concerned about that. I really don't have any position either way, only that the process will go through. And whatever the recommendations are from that subcommittee, it will be then referred to the greater committee, and then decisions will be made. I do hope, for the sake of the congressman, that this goes by quickly, so that there can be answers. I think that he needs to be accountable to the people of Guam in terms of whatever the findings are. And lastly, I don't really believe in this whole incident and in this whole administration since we've started, and also with the senators, that there are incompetent leaders. I think everyone who has been elected to public office are serving in the best interest of the people of Guam. We are working very hard here to get through this COVID, and we have been communicating very closely with the federal government. I myself have been working very closely with the White House. I know that Speaker Barnes has been working very closely with the National State Legislative Council. I know that our directors, most of them have been working very closely with their agencies. I know Dave De La Sola has been working very closely with the U.S. Department of Labor. I know Daphne has been working very closely with the U.S. Treasury. And these are competent leaders, and these are leaders that have brought results to the people of Guam. As a result of the hard work of our DOL here through Dave De La Sola, we stood up a pandemic unemployment insurance program in a matter of 12 weeks, which, by the way, the U.S. has already been in this program for 80 years. So how competent is that? That is true competency. So the statements that Congressman Mike Nicholas has said about the competency of the leaders here is totally incorrect, very untruthful, and I think he should apologize to the people of Guam for that statement that he has made. And what that has done is it has put doubt on the people of Guam's trust for our leaders. Our leaders here work hard, and I expect our federal leaders to do the same.
In national news, the Trump administration announced it is complying with Washington, D.C.'s Phase 2 reopening. This comes as the White House is pushing back on criticism about a comment President Trump made during his rally in Oklahoma this weekend, as well as the size of the crowd that showed up to hear the president speak. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
For the first time in months, reporters did not have their temperatures checked as they entered the White House. The White House says those in close proximity to the president will still be checked. This comes after President Trump said he isn't happy about the increasing number of coronavirus cases in the country.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Democrats say they will ask members of the coronavirus task force about the president's statement when they testify before Congress tomorrow. But the White House says he was joking.
That was tongue-in-cheek.
Democratic challenger Joe Biden pounced on the comment, tweeting, "Speed up the testing." CBS News has learned the president was also frustrated and angry at the attendance at his first campaign rally since the coronavirus outbreak.
We begin our campaign, and I just want to thank all of you. You are warriors.
A little more than 6,000 people showed up for Saturday's event, well short of the 19,000 capacity. Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale boasted online about receiving 1 million requests for tickets.
That guy who used to be on our show would have been furious that something went haywire.
In my interactions with the president after the rally on Marine One with him, I checked in with him on Air Force One, and he was in very good spirits. Spoke with him again about the rally yesterday, and it's got rave reviews.
President Trump heads to a rally in Phoenix tomorrow, while Arizona is seeing a fast-growing number of coronavirus cases. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
In your Banking 671 report, the University of Guam invites the community to utilize its newly developed Guam Recovery web portal. That's guamrecovery.com, which is free. It's a one-stop resource to assist with a safer, more efficient reopening of Guam's economy. The site, built in collaboration with tourism stakeholders, consolidates relevant and up-to-the-minute information from official sources. The site is launching as Guam's tourism industry prepares to welcome guests back beginning on July 1st. The portal curates timely news about the pandemic status in Guam, travel requirements for Guam and source markets, reopening guidelines, sanitation and workforce information, and the economy. The site links to other official sources such as the Centers for Disease Control. Users will also soon find news from Guam's tourism source markets and industry best practices from around the world that may help local businesses plan for future growth and sustainability. The Guam Recovery Portal is the first project under the group's overarching plan to develop a hub at the School of Business and Public Administration that will complement the government of Guam's policies and help the island attract visitors back safely. That is your Banking 671 report, sponsored by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360. And finally, at KUAM, we're very honored to be a part of this year's Relay for Life, as we have been for many years, and with 2020 being a particularly difficult time where we can't do all the fun activities together, our spirit and focus remains strong in battling cancer. And this Saturday, we have the virtual Relay for Life, and a part of that, we are doing the KUAM Dance Challenge, and we're inviting all of you to check out this video and then send us your dance moves.
Never give up, never stay down, stand back up, put your feet on the ground. We all know we must fight to survive, so live life alive, it's alright. Never give up, never stay down, stand back up, put your feet on the ground. We all know we must fight to survive, so live life alive, it's alright. Never give up.
Again, join the fight against cancer. Send us your video to KUAM Dance Challenge at KUAM.com, or post your video on social media using the hashtag KUAM Dance Challenge. Yes, Jason?
May I just add, okay, that was the video we actually did yesterday. We have gotten several more submissions, and those were the ones that we actually got from the community. So if you want to, and we certainly hope that you do, we actually put it all over. It's on our Instagram page, it's on our Twitter feed, it's on our YouTube channel, it's on Facebook, of course. So, just scroll a little bit in the timeline. If you're on a desktop, you can still watch this show and then check out other posts. So make sure to check out that. Again, if you haven't kept up with what's going on with the KUM Dance Challenge, this lovely lady over here, who's also wearing a sweater, by the way, because I think it is cold.
I think it's called a hoodie.
Oh, the hoodie, okay. She actually did the choreography, and she came up with that. There's some really interesting takes on, would you say they've given it their own style? Because like what you saw there is like Ty and Vic.
That's usually what you do, right?
Yeah,
you
Ty and Vic from
take the moves
I-94.
and you make it your own.
That's what I do.
The Ty did the whoa.
Yeah.
She was doing all
I
stuff.
should have just asked her, hey, how can I do the whoa in this?
Yeah, and we have gotten several more that we're going to show on the night on the 27th, which is this Saturday.
Yes.
During our special streaming and broadcast presentation of the virtual Relay for Life, the first ever. Chris, your little ones.
I was waiting for it to come on.
I'm going to actually show that today. But
I'm
man,
gonna
they were
airdrop
adorable.
Yeah, I'm going to airdrop it to you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, we're putting together this show. Mike Villagomez, he's the editor, and he's been working extremely hard on this. And I just wanted to say a huge thank you and a great job to the Guam chapter of the American Cancer Society. They curated a bunch of videos from a lot of the teams and a lot of the organizers. And Jason, you did a lot of interviews over Zoom to make this show possible.
I had the
And
easy
it's-
part. I mean, we talk to people who have the passion for fighting cancer in our community. This is a tireless job. And they're not seeking recognition. They're not saying, "Hey, look at me and what I'm doing." They're just doing it because it's the right thing to do. They want to help their fellow Guamanians and basically their fellow human beings all over the world. But again, there are many more submissions that we got. We're going to feature each and every one of them. And it's not a competition, it's the dance challenge. So, we came up with the general idea of the dance. And you saw like there were those two people that were dancing in front of, I believe that's was it the Manila church? Was that San Vicente San Roque?
I thought it was
Or
somewhere in
Barragata,
Tumon, but
Yeah. Or it might have been, but
it was a church.
Yeah, it was one of the churches. And it wasn't move for move exactly what you did, which is totally the point.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's why Bree and I went first, because we wanted to set the bar real low.
Nice.
Because if
Least common denominator.
If we come out and showing our real moves, then it would have been like, oh, I don't know if we can. How do we follow that?
Yeah, but I mean, people were, and you saw like at the end that was Team Feds, who were some federal staffers. I've interviewed them.
I gotta shout out my cousin and her family were in there. My cousin's half black. She married a black guy, Travis. They stay in Minnesota, so like at the George Floyd, the whole like epicenter of everything that happened,
wow.
like they were just right there, like 30 minutes away. So I've always been talk with them. We had a whole family chat, and sadly, two of my mom's sisters passed from cancer, and my Auntie Jeannie, who's actually my cousin Andrea's mom, it was just the worst. I mean, she left Guam to get treatment in the States. It was already stage 4. And when she first got there, we were given kind of optimistic news, but then it was just so heartbreaking. It was just so fast. She just went so fast, and so that's why they did the videos.
But this is how we keep her memory alive.
Of course, yeah.
As well as everybody else who's going through it. So yeah, please make sure to go there. There is that MP3 version. So if you're wondering about how do I get the audio track, do I have to have like a separate device and play it? No, we've got the Dropbox links, and you can actually download Savage K's song "Live Life Alive." Keep the song and use it as your ringtone. You don't have to give it back to us and everything. It's a beautiful piece of music that our late former colleague and our brother wrote as he began his own battle through cancer. Sadly, he lost that battle, but his memory stays alive right here in KUM each and every day, and we are honoring Savage K with that. So download the audio, use it. I mean, you can use whatever platform you want. If you want to use it in a Snap, in a YouTube video, in a TikTok, use whatever editing platform you get, or just shoot yourself doing it. You can go totally DIY, and then make sure to email it to KUMDanceChallenge@KUM.com, and then make sure to watch on Saturday, because you are going to be moved, you're going to be inspired, and you're probably going to laugh a little bit, because people were very, very creative, and that's the whole point.
Right.
Not everybody can still get out and go back to normal, because we are far from that, but what you can do is show your support. You can practice in Afamaulik, you can practice social distancing, and you can be very, very creative and keep up the fight.
Right.
That's what it's about.
And how do I get my kids on the Facebook Live? I'm gonna airdrop it to you, and then you got some other kids, right? I just see the kids. It's cool when the kids do it.
Right. Okay. The virtual Relay for Life.
Sorry.
It is airing on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV8, and we will also be streaming it on, I believe, Facebook.
Yeah,
absolutely.
This is awesome because this is something that we look forward to doing every year. It's a vibe, definitely, when you're walking around that track and you're smelling the barbecue smoke and just being there with everybody who's all on the same page. It's just amazing. But I want to thank everyone for putting this together, because in lieu of, this is like really the best thing that we could have done.
Yeah. It's a beautiful program. We even have the Luminaria ceremony. It is really moving, and it is really touching, and I can't wait for people to watch it. So it's a Luminaria ceremony at the Guam Museum, and then there's a virtual Luminaria.
And you were watching the Rough Cut yesterday, and I saw you. You were tearing up during the Luminaria.
Edited version.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also, and talking about this, I can't, of course, forget Len Ramirez, who's being laid to rest today. Is another one of our KUAM family that has sadly succumbed to cancer. So we're definitely motivated to put on this show for you guys and honor the survivors and the memory of those who have passed.
And that's some of the feedback that we were getting. And when I was doing those interviews, and people were saying, okay, people were so looking forward to doing Relay for Life this year, because every year, it's almost like All Souls Day. You make plans. You go. There is nothing else you're going to do the day. Let's go to the gravesite. Let's clean it. let's have our moment of respect. And people were like, how am I going to be able to honor the people that have passed on or the people that are fighting this year? I can't do the luminaria in real life. I can't, walk laps in. And they said, no, we're going to have something. Just give us a few days. This is the American Cancer Society. And there's like, we'll do something so that you can keep up the memory of that. And what they've put together is amazing.
Right. I think it took like about, Mike and I have been working on this for
a long time.
It's
taken a long time, guys. They worked hard. Hey, let's bring Dr. Tom Shea on. And Doc, I don't know if Sabrina sent you the video, but we're calling you out to do our TikTok challenge. I know you like to post on social media. I don't think I've seen you TikTok yet, Doc, but I'm
Chris, you make me laugh. You put me on hold for 20 minutes, make me listen to your entire show. It's good. That's a good way. Yeah, start the bar low. I'm gonna have to watch your video.
Right. Yeah, you watch my video, and then that's when you're gonna be like, I got this.
All right. Now you wanted to talk about COVID, right?
Yeah, we want to talk about this letter that you sent around as a mass email. Bree, you got that?
I sent it to the governor as well.
Right.
I think we're looking for solutions. Mm-hmm. And we can criticize, but you're going to criticize, going to provide some solutions. So I really don't want to talk about critics anymore, but just providing some solution. And I think I was looking around, chatting with my colleagues in Hawaii as well, and I think they'll be announcing something pretty soon. But I think what I've sent to the governor, I think it's reasonable thought for them to consider. I'm not on the Physician Advisory Council or whatever the group is, but I'll probably never be. I don't have any conflict of interest. So my suggestion is to provide the testing. I have to slow my heartbeat down because I was just jogging a little bit. You have to, provide, if you're going to travel, open up to a tourist, get them a test. They can test 72 hours prior to arriving on Guam, and then they can go. But if they stay longer, in 7 days, they test again, between 7 to 14 days. Or if they don't get a test when they arrive on Guam, they get a test. If they don't want to get a test, they stay in their rooms, don't come out. But if they get a test and it's negative, sure. But beyond that, they need to also social distance, they wear the mask, and then also log down where they went to. You don't want to be like the Air Force guys and just kind of, roam around. And I disagree with the commander of the Air Force that said that he doesn't know if they caught it here or caught it elsewhere. They didn't catch that on Guam. They came on board with it. And I don't, they're going to court-martial these airmen, so I don't believe that the first person that they say, has symptoms 17 days afterwards. I bet you the person has symptoms prior to that.
Right.
And even if he has small symptoms, he may have tested positive. Mm-hmm. But, the commander already said the symptoms are very mild. So he may have already been in a recovery stage. So I really don't believe. And if he had caught it on Guam and he spread it to the 32 people that he's with that quickly, no. This has got to be something from off island. So I would take a step back, and I think the military need to reevaluate how they handle their airmen and seamen, however they want to come on board. But if you're going to go out to the community where we've done our part, quarantine ourselves, mask on, we've done a good job in containing this virus. Mm-hmm. And most of the positive that's coming out, I really think it's a recovery positive. Recovery positive to me is someone who caught it, they'd be asymptomatic, and they tested positive for the dead viral particles. And I know that because several of my patients tested positive. And I tested for the blood test through the Roche testing over DLS, and the IgG is positive. So that tells me that they had a past infection. So they'd be asymptomatic.
Doc, I know in your letter you asked for their unbiased consideration of your idea. What have you heard about the willingness or the unwillingness for our government to test tourists when they come in?
Well, I think they're saying that we don't have the capacity to test. Well, listen, if you don't have the capacity to test at the airport, then don't open up. You yourself very, very well said, to open up, we have to have the capacity to test. Well, then why are you opening up and you're telling us now that you don't have the capacity to test? That's what I've been hearing. But I think they have the capacity. Don't be lazy. If you're going to open up, I think we need to test. And I think the protocol that I've provided to them is not something that I came up with. I just modified it based on the Alaska protocol. And I think that's been working pretty well for them. And what I modified on that protocol is that every visitor comes in, they get a logbook, They log where they went and who they came in contact with, etc. There's still social distance, and I think that's going to help. It's not going to be a perfect system, but if we want to open up, I think that's the way to do it. And I've talked to my aunties in Taiwan, and I asked them, well, how do you feel about testing coming here? Is that going to deter you from traveling? And they say, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay, and why? The reason why is because they'd rather get tested and they want to know that the other passengers are negative before they get on that plane. And I think that actually provides the Asia travelers a reassurance that we are doing something to protect them during their travel. So I think it's a good protocol that I've submitted to the governor and I sent to the state surgeon. And I even messaged former Governor Carl Gutierrez. So, and I CC all the senators on there, and I CC you guys. So I'm pretty transparent about what I sent in. So it's not, and I put it on my Facebook. So read it. If you don't like it, come up with something better. That's what I said.
Oh, challenge accepted.
But I think it's good. I think it's something for them to consider, and I think they will. I think they know me long enough that I'm not asking for a contract or be paid by the government for doing any kind of healthcare testing or anything like that. You know me better. So, although I may not be in the PAG or in the governor's, circle, I think I've been in Guam for 24 years come August. So we got the military to thank for that. So I hope that, my presence on Guam will be long enough that they can trust me a little bit more than just to push me aside and say, hey, let's not listen to him.
Doc, and I just kind of switch gears a little bit here because I know that you have a good relationship with Delegate Nicholas, and also your big presence on social media. I just want to get your take on this whole formation of the ethics subcommittee to investigate these allegations against our congressman.
Well, I haven't read much into it, but I think when it first came out, I was critical of it. I think I actually asked them direct questions. I don't know if it says, a good relationship or bad relationship. I would always criticize our politicians if they're out of line, because that's our job to do, to make sure they understand. But I don't know what the detailed ethics commission, but I think if somebody filed a complaint and if they file ethics commission, sure, go ahead and investigate it and see what the outcome is. You're actually should be innocent until you're proven guilty. And so let it go through the process. But in the meantime, don't forget your job. And even the local lawmakers, someone said during this Black Lives Matter, can we get along? Come on, let's get along. Let the investigations go on, but let's do our jobs as well. And part of our job for the lawmakers and for our governor is to get through this COVID crisis. And I like what she said. Let's get through this. Well, I submitted a solution for her. She can modify it if she wants. If she modify it in a form that I think I don't like it, then I will criticize it. So, I think what I presented to her is something that's reasonable.
Now, which mailbox did you send it to? Did you send it to the Jim Moylan mailbox?
I did. I sent it to Jim. I think I sent it to all the senators. If I missed one, I apologize.
Right.
And if I sent it to the wrong person, I apologize because it was 5:30 in the morning. I was just getting up.
Yeah.
So, but I was sleeping on it.
Right.
And then I got up this morning. It's almost like Jerry Maguire. I had a calling. I had to type a memo in the middle of my sweat. So I sent it off. Hopefully I don't get killed from it. But I had to send it off because I had a busy day. If I don't get it off, they might come up with something else that we don't agree with. But it's something for them to chew on, Chris. Maybe read it. I think it's reasonable.
Yeah, we'll give it a look later on, Doc, and we'll follow up. I mean, it's definitely an idea that we've heard about. So
I did want to follow up on something. Like you said, Guam, everybody here on island has been holding it down, and we see what's happened with the increase in cases for this unit that's deployed here. Do you think there's going to be some harmful impact as we reopen tourism?
No, I don't think so. And, I've been keeping up this COVID-19 virus as well. And there have been reports and editorials from other countries like Italy, for example, who got hit very, very hard. And we think that this virus probably calmed down a little bit, and I think it's going to continue to calm down. If we remember our crisis with SARS was a very invasive virus. We don't have a vaccine, and it's been 10 years anniversary, I think, or more for SARS. And I think SARS still exists. In fact, this COVID-19 is part of that SARS family. So we're living with SARS. There's going to be other viruses come along. So I think as people present themselves, even with symptoms, I think it's lessened. So we're going to get sick. People will get sick. Like, cancer, for example, this weekend. Both of my grandmother and my mom died of cancer. And, that's going to affect people. But I think viruses will continue to surface, no matter what form they will surface. But I think COVID-19, eventually, I think it will resolve. I don't know about vaccine, even if you create a vaccine, maybe there'll be a COVID-20 or COVID-21. Who knows?
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. Yes. But, we have, our life on Earth is only so many years. You know what I mean, Sabrina?
Yeah.
So if we're going to live our life to the fullest, we got to look at our quality of life, our families, we miss them. We want to be able to do things. But I think the protocol that I set up for the governor, hopefully that'll create some footwork, a platform from them to go forward and open up Guam for tourism. I also emailed, I think, CC Mary Torres as well. Me and her has been discussing opening restaurants, and we did. The restaurants are open. I've been out there. In fact, I couldn't get into Rotary Sushi last night because it was packed, but that's because of 50% capacity, which is good. So I think Mary Torres, and United Airlines, or even the business community in tourism, I think they should take it to heart. They may not want to say, well, if you test them, they're going to not come. I don't think that's the case. I think if you test them, you provide them reassurance, I think they're going to come. I think they're going to be more reassured because now you're reassuring them that when you get on that flight, your passenger who's sitting right behind you or right across you is negative as well. And when you get on Guam, if you want to stay longer, you get tested. There's no harm in doing that. I don't see any negatives to that. I think it's something that the entire community should look at it and take to heart. And that's just me speaking.
Right.
They don't have to take it. Yeah.
What about your thoughts? I mean, you're former military, and the fact that the Air Force Joint Region Marianas, they refused to tell us how many people were in this Air Force unit that was deployed here, and where they're from, and where they have been while they were staying at the reef.
Right. Well, I think they need to be more transparent, and that's where the criticism comes out. I think if the military was more transparent with our community, it's better. But if you're not going to be transparent, then don't let your airmen come out into the community. If you're so secret, why put them in the Guam Reef? If this is such a secret unit of the secret op, whatever it is, then why are you putting it in a community in a Guam Reef hotel when there's no guards? Put them in the Air Force base and contain them within the gates and debrief them there. But I think what they did, for me, as a former commander in the Navy, when I talk to my seamen, I also tell them that, be transparent. If you got something to say it. And I think they need to be just more transparent with it, because without that transparency, you're going to get criticism.
Yeah, and I think what's happening here, Doc, is during the COVID, I can see that the military, they've really tried to better build their relationship with the community here on Guam, and something like this. And I think I could read that kind of on Admiral Manoni. It's got to be very frustrating, because this is just undoing all what they thought was the good work that they have accomplished to build that relationship. Because they seem kind of annoyed by it, and I was also thinking, I mean, if you're going to show up to a press conference and read a statement and then not really answer any questions, I mean, are you really there?
Yeah, if you're going to do that, just release it and stay home, right?
You should have sent a press release.
A press conference, to me, you got to be able to ask questions.
Yeah.
Be able to ask questions and answer them. If not, don't hold a press conference just to release a statement. If you're going to do that, shoot a video of yourself and send it off. But if you're going to sit there live, answer questions.
Amen.
You can't answer them, go home.
Doc, we're talking about tourism and all this stuff, and I just got to ask, because I don't know if you're buddies with Tom Atta, but did you hear anything about Tom Atta? He resigned abruptly.
I read that on my phone, and Tom is a good guy. I don't know why he resigned, but he's been put in a position that's not a win-win position. But maybe he'll come back up and read my protocol.
Well, did you CC him? Did you CC him on it?
No, I did not. Maybe I should have. But I'm sure if you're listening, he'll hear it. And maybe Tom Atta, if you're listening, look at my protocol. Maybe if you read it, you'll come back. I think it's something for for him to actually chew on as well.
Maybe he's going to go keep John Birch company at Ancestral Lens.
There's a lot of people resigning within the administration. So, I think that's comes with the territory, I suppose,
Yeah.
But I think our people here have done a really good job in trying to contain this. And I think, our island, similar to Hawaii, has done a very good job in containing it. And luckily that, I think it's going to come to a pass here. I think the protocol is set up. It doesn't have to last forever. Just try it out. They do pilot programs or whatever they do. Try it out and see what happens. There's no harm in doing it. In fact, I think it's going to provide more reassurances for travelers coming out.
All right, Doc. Well, hey, we're going to get Senator Rigel on a little bit later because I know that he had a bill, and we wanted to ask him about Tom Atta, too. So we'll talk about this testing at the airport.
Sure.
Okay, thanks,
No
Doc.
problem.
Yeah.
Okay, take care.
Wash your hands.
Of course.
Okay.
Take care.
Dr. Tom Shea, and we'll keep it on the phones here on the subject of this cluster now. This Air Force cluster. We're going to bring on Annette Uggan from the Department of Public Health. Let me just get you her title. She is Bureau of Communicable Disease Control Administrator. And that basically means you're in charge of the contact tracing. Is that right, Annette? Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and it's Chris and Sabrina here, Containing COVID. Thanks for joining us. Your first time on the show?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here we are. How's it feel?
A little nerve-wracking, but thank you for having me.
Do you know anything about Tom Atta?
Yes, we worked with him at the start for the airport screening.
Okay. Yeah, because he resigned. We're just checking everybody if they heard anything.
No, sorry, no.
Okay, but what you have heard about, though, and what you're working on is the contact tracing investigation into these airmen who we now know disobeyed direct orders that mandated they only go from Anderson Air Force Base to the Guam Reef Hotel. And what's frustrating a lot of people here, Annette, is the public feels like they deserve to know where these airmen were gallivanting around to. And that's something you guys are in the process of investigating, right? So let's just go back to the beginning. When did you guys find out that these airmen disobeyed direct orders? And how did that determine the way you guys move forward as a unit?
We found out last week, sir. The military still has to report to the Department of Public Health any communicable diseases that they identify or they test for. And so these individuals that were tested were initially reported. The first one was reported June 13. And then over the course of the next few days, that's where we saw, as it was released in the JIC, another positive, 2 more positive, and then all of a sudden we had 4, then 7. And so we are already in communication with Anderson Air Force Base as well as U.S. Naval Hospital, who is conducting the testing for the Anderson Air Force Medical Wing. And so in that communication, we receive information based on where they were quarantined at, and interviews were conducted by Anderson Air Force Base and provided to us that they did not follow their restriction of movement orders. And so that's where we started to get information of where were the possible establishments these individuals went to while violating those orders. And so we initiate our contact. We are still waiting for more information in regards to the dates, length of time, were you inside, outside, were you complying with the face covering or wearing of a mask, social distancing. And so those are the things that my team has to sift through and gather and cross-check information to verify, okay, we talk to the establishments as well to get their policy and procedures for their safety measures. And then from there, we notify, possible exposure, to see if anybody is sick. Are there any other means of exposure, meaning has anyone traveled recently or been in contact with someone who's traveled? We coordinate in regards to testing, and so that's what my team has been doing over the past few days, sir, as we get the information.
Right, and that's kind of disturbing that you guys knew since last week and we only found out. Do you mean late last week, early last week, middle last week?
You said the 13th?
Well, the 13 was the first case, and so then the military does conduct their own contact tracing and case investigation. And then as other cases started to come up and they see the pattern and they notice, okay, it's from that unit that was deployed to Guam, and it's from, they're being housed at their quarantine facility. Again, this is not the Guam facility. This is the military Anderson Air Force Base quarantine facility that they utilize. And so we get that information, and then based on that information provided to us, then that's when we say, okay, they're reporting they didn't follow their restriction of movement orders. Then as information is being provided to them, Anderson reports it to us that, okay, yes, they did go outside to establishment. So our contact tracers have been working on that, sir.
So let me get this straight. You guys do not have direct access to these airmen? You don't have a way to ask them? You're just getting everything secondhand from the Anderson brass?
The Anderson Public Health section provides us the information. They are required to report to public health like any other reportable communicable disease, and so that's how our process is. They provide us the information, and if it involves any civilians that reside off base, outside the gate, public health now will step in and assist them. If it involves a possible exposure at establishments outside the gate, then that's where public health is the main agency that will then deal with notifying the local establishment and the owners or the managers, as well as the staff. And so now we work with those establishments to provide us the list. And again, we have to go through the information of dates and times. These individuals were reported to be at their establishment. So again, we have individuals where they'll give us the whole list, but then we have to sift through it and say, okay, not all the employees were on duty at that time. They were the morning shift versus the afternoon shift or evening shift, and so that's where my team now has to sort through it and identify who are the close contacts.
And Annette, let me ask you, in the event of a regular contact tracing investigation, you would be able to question the individuals themselves, right?
No, normally we rely on our military partners.
No. I'm talking about on a civilian side, like outside the fence. Okay. So let me ask you: are you confident that you guys are being able to conduct the best trace investigation that you can when you can't even directly talk to these airmen who disobeyed orders?
Yes, sir. Based on the information we are getting, and again, we go back and forth even with the military, public health, as well as through our chain of command to their chain of command to provide us all necessary information so we can conduct the best case investigation and contact tracing. Again, we voiced that it's urgent and that we need as complete as possible. And the military, again, they have to comply with sharing the necessary epidemiological and medical information without violating any HIPAA, confidentiality, but what we need in order to do our job for outside the gate.
Annette, let me ask you, because we had heard that these airmen had dined as far away from Tumon as Talafofo. Are you able to confirm any of that, Annette?
I'm not allowed to confirm or deny anything, sir, but whatever information is shared with our team, we will investigate it fully. And again, we work with the managers or owners or supervisors so that we can reassure them that we are conducting our investigation. We provide necessary information, and if there's testing that needs to be done, we will coordinate with them as well as for their employees so that they're taken care of on our side.
I'm sure, though, you can appreciate that the public feels like they deserve to know whether or not they're being exposed at these businesses that these airmen went to when they defied the orders of the superiors. So when I hear that they were, eating down in Talafofo at a restaurant, hee-hee-ha-ha, endangering our people, I think our people deserve to know. So when are they going to know? After you guys go and test everybody at these establishments? Or if you could just walk us through that part of the investigation, because we're hearing that they dined in Tumon, which is obvious, and then as far down as Talafofo. And that, if you're on restricted movement to go from Anderson to the Guam Reef Hotel, I don't see where Talafofo or even restaurants in Tumon fit into that equation? Because Talafofo, that's way off the reservation.
Yes, sir. Understood. Yes, we work diligently to identify the close contacts, and so those are the employees. And that's why we also have to talk to the individual establishment. What are your social distancing policies? What are your safety measures that you implemented for your staff as well as your other patrons? And so based on that information, we always start with the closest contact, which of course are the employees who had interaction. Then there's also that information of, did they dine in or were they just takeout? And so was it indoors where they had to come in and pick up the food, or was it just outdoors? And how long were they at these establishments? Because if it was less than 10, 15 minutes, then that really reduces the exposure to other individuals, even the employees and other patrons. So we definitely want to concentrate on those who had more than 15 to 30 minutes direct contact with these individuals, even if they were, both parties were wearing the mask and and practicing social distancing, again, because this is a novel virus and we want to take all necessary precautions. So we work on from the center out, as we would say, and then as we need to widen our contact tracing, we will do that, sir, based on the information we continue to gather as we increase testing to those individuals that we know had closer and longer exposure. And then from there, we will then work our way out, because we also don't want to cause undue panic for the public. We want to assure them that we are working with Anderson. Right. Public health is doing their part. And again, there is that issue of testing too soon. And so that's why, too, we have to interview every individual employee and check on signs and symptoms. We have to verify were there other possible exposures. We've had already, we're more than 2.5 months into this. And so again, with this small island, we're double checking our databases, because what if these individuals were on our list from a previous case? And as you all know, we had very limited test kits back when this all started, and so we couldn't test all of the contacts. So again, those are the things that we have to make sure we don't duplicate our case reports, our contact reports, and to see have we tested them before or not, and then provide them the testing, since now we do have more available. And again, yes, sir.
So you guys tested employees at the Guam Reef Hotel. Are you able to tell us, have you tested any employees at any of the dining establishments that these airmen went to when they defied the direct orders from their superiors?
No, not yet, sir. Those are being coordinated, as well as, again, there are some establishments who are asking, can we have definitive dates? And that's where, again, we're getting that information from the military, and as soon as we get more definitive answers, we contact those establishments, because then that will help them narrow down their list of employees who were on duty at that date and time.
But you talk about undue panic. I think what's causing an undue panic is the lack of information. When people are out here guessing where these guys went and, fearing that they may have been exposed, or wondering why they were allowed to gallivant around the island. Let's address that, Annette. So this is obviously a huge loophole for Department of Public Health and Social Services when we have these military components outside the baseline, doing God knows whatever with no supervision, either from the military side or from public health. So that being said, in the future, when we have these troop movements staying in these hotels, is it going to be public health that polices where the hell these guys are going, or where they're not going, or is it going to be, are we just going to rely on the military again?
No, so we've mentioned areas of improvement. We've recommended that up our chain of command to not only Anderson Air Force Base chain of command, but also to Joint Region Marianas. And again, this is a collaborative partnership. And so we've provided them the recommendation of what areas needed to be improved. And again, it is the responsibility of DOD, the respective branches, in regard to their respective quarantine facilities, especially if they're utilizing one of our hotels outside the gate. Inside the gate, yes, that's their purview. But yes, that is something that we work directly with them and have provided the necessary information. I have a colleague who's overseeing the containment and infection control branch, and he has been working diligently with them to point out these are the areas that need to be improved, and to, cut off that loophole, as you mentioned, and so that we don't have this repeat down the road.
How many dine-in restaurants and local businesses does the team know of thus far and have contacted? about possible close contact or any sort of contact with these Air Force servicemen?
We've received information of approximately 14. And again, some of them were they picked up the food and left. Then there's others where we were reported they reported a location. We need a date because again, by going in and saying, okay, you were possibly exposed, there are the owners and managers who want to know what date and time. And again, that goes back to also our general public. If we just say, oh, this restaurant or this establishment was where one or some of these airmen went to while violating the restriction of movement orders, people are going to start, oh my God, I was there on this day, but not realizing it's outside of the possible infectious period. So that's why too we need to make sure we have all the information complete as possible so that we can go back to the establishment on these dates. And would you happen to know other patrons who attended or were there at this time and date? Yeah. Because if we just say a date, we don't say a date, we just say a location, people are all, I've been there. And it could have been 2 weeks ago, which is beyond what we're focusing on at this point in time.
Right, but when did the military move all of the deployed service members up to Andersen Air Force Base? Was it after the first airman tested positive on the 12th?
Yes, because again, they look at, again, within their quarantine facility, was it just this one individual? What were their movements within the unit? And then, because it was only one at the time, so as soon as someone became positive, they automatically moved them and isolated them onto Andersen Air Force Base. So as they were seeing slowly increasing numbers, they would move those individuals and continue to do their contact tracing, spreading out. And again, these individuals are located on different floors of the hotel. And so, we would do the same thing at Public Health. We would work from the center out and continue to do our case investigation and contact tracing to see where was any interaction besides the work site, and then move them in. So as the cases increased last week, Andersen moved them as quickly as possible onto their base, and there was no more airmen from this deployed unit outside.
But this was after they already went to at least 14 different establishments outside of their restricted movement orders.
Yes,
and
unfortunately, yes.
Would you guys say that so it would be between May 25th and June 12th, where they may have gone out and about and gallivanting or getting food?
Those are the initial dates, yes, because as we started to get reports of cases, our military partners were looking into it as well, and then
when were all of them officially moved? All of them out of the Reef, and it is only the Reef Hotel, right? That they were staying
for this specific unit. Yes, ma'am, the Reef Hotel.
So, are we checking other hotels where other units might be staying, just in case? Are there other units staying at other hotels?
I have not received reports of any other locations besides Reef Hotel.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So I guess there are other units that are here, right, on Guam, aside from the one where we're seeing this cluster?
To my knowledge, I've not been informed of any other units, but if they are, the military is taking the necessary precaution so that there isn't a repeat of what happened at
like they did in the first place. Are you able to tell us where did this unit get deployed from? Because they won't even tell us that. And I'm sure you as the contact trace investigator, that's got to be, I don't think you're bound. You're not in the military, right?
No, sir, but again, we do respect what the military is allowed to release out. I do know that they're.
What do you really think? You really think it's operational security, or you just think they don't want to tell us? Because it just seems like they don't want to tell us.
I defer
so you
to
know,
answer that.
you know where they were deployed from.
I know of some areas, but I am not authorized to release that information.
Okay. So are they from different areas, or just one location?
And again, this is. The deployment of various units here to Guam is something that occurs regularly on a rotational basis, and I do know that individuals are deployed for different lengths of time.
Yeah.
And so that's about as much as I'm authorized to release. I'm sorry.
When you talk about, you keep saying this is a cooperative, it's a collaborative, but yet you're not allowed to speak to or communicate with the airmen who disobeyed these direct orders from their supervisors. What about the turnaround? Because I feel like we're racing against the clock here where, we, the people of Guam outside of the military baseline, are now having to wonder which 14 establishments these airmen went to. And I'm curious about the turnaround. So when you say it's collaborative, do you have like a direct line, or do you have to send them your questions in writing and then, like the media, wait a whole day to get an answer? How collaborative is it? How cooperative is it? And are we further jeopardizing the people of Guam while we sit around and wait for the military to decipher everything that, so they can put it out in a way where it doesn't compromise this or it doesn't compromise that or the operational whatever?
As soon as we receive the information, and the questions are basically the same in regards to case investigation and contact tracing for coronavirus. As soon as the military receives that information from the individual, they do provide it to us. Yes, it would be great that we had the direct face-to-face interview, but again, we trust and we rely on our military partners to get that information and provide it to us just as quickly as possible, because yes, it is very time sensitive, and as soon as our team gets any information, we act on it and we initiate our part in regards to contact tracing.
Right.
So yes, there is the lag time that I would love to avoid, but even if they were not military unit, we see the same problem outside the gate, unfortunately, be it with public or private partners. And again, there's a lot of factors into it. How long did they wait to go get their test results? When did they get the test, and the timing of it being released and coming back, the communication. So again, this is not a challenge specific to the military-public partnership. It is something that we unfortunately do experience
ma'am, but
outside the gate.
But again, there's a clear difference between investigating a civilian cluster and having to, kowtow to the military and wait for them to give you info. Because you're saying that you encounter the same thing, but let's be real, you're dealing with way more secrecy, a lot more barriers with this investigation than you would with like the Hafaday Bingo one, right?
Yes, you do point that out correctly, and so that's why we've been fortunate that we were able to go bring up our chain of command straight to the governor and saying, as the governor, can you please go to the top brass for the Anderson as well as Joint Region Marianas, so that they can assure us they are cooperating fully. And so again, being down here at the lower level in this agency, as we hit a barrier, we definitely brought up our chain of command, who then, our request was, can we just go to the governor, who can then, at her top level, talk to the top military brass, and so that it doesn't further impede what public health has to do on our part for our residents outside the gate.
Okay, that's great. I wanted to ask about, you said the 14 venues. What about transportation companies, taxi cab drivers, bus drivers?
Stroll.
How many of them have you guys contacted?
Those are being looked into again, because yes, there's the various means of transportation, and so we are concentrating on the establishment that they had went to, information in regards to their transportation method. As it comes in, then we will act on it as needed. If there was just amongst their own individual rentals, then those individuals have already been taken care of.
During the press conference, the Air Force announced that they had tested, I believe, all of the service members over the weekend. Did Public Health get the results?
Yes, and actually it's the reports coming out from U.S. Naval Hospital. They are also assisting Anderson Air Force Base. So those are the information that's being pushed out on the JIC with all the different reporting sources.
Okay, and so do we have all the results from all of the service members that were deployed?
For that deployed unit, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so the 22 were the ones that tested positive over the weekend, right? And then for a total of 35, 37?
35 from the deployed unit, and then there were 2 individuals who are military that were also tested, but they are not specific to that unit. They were a different unit here on Guam.
And then how many tested negative?
Of the ones that were tested, sorry, I'm trying to do my math here.
Right.
There was 92.
And that's 92 of the unit that's deployed here, right?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's 92 plus 35. That would be, we're looking at 127 members of this deployed unit.
Yes.
Total gallivanting.
14 different venues.
Or not all of them, but
Right.
we're looking at 127 people in this unit that were deployed to Anderson Air Force Base, but we just don't know where.
Yes.
Where from?
Where they were deployed from, correct. And not all of these individuals violated the restrictions.
Right,
But then again, that's according to the military because you can't ask them. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and I'm just concerned, like, they don't have any motive to be honest with us. They weren't honest with us in the first place. They're fine inside the fence. That's why I'm trying to make sure that we're getting what we need to get from them for the sake of everyone who lives here permanently.
Correct. Yes, sir. And again, it's a delicate balance for them because we do host them. I mean, Guam put out its best foot and our best hospitality for the Teddy Roosevelt, even though I know there were a lot of complaints and all that. But again, it was the humanitarian thing to do, and I know with the U.S. Naval, they were very appreciative of that, as we saw in the footage that shared as they were leaving Guam. And so that's something then that the military, yes, inside versus outside the gate, but we are a critical partner for them.
Critical, but they won't let you talk to the people you need to talk to.
We will go off of. We're reassured that their team is handling the investigation.
Just like we were reassured that these airmen were on restricted movement orders and that they were going to follow their orders because it's the military, and anybody in the military knows that when you get an order, you follow it.
Correct. Yes, sir. And that is where the loophole is being addressed, or was already being addressed, because that was definitely highlighted of they're not complying with their orders.
Okay. So, Annette, just so we're clear, 127 were tested. That is 127 from this unit that is deployed here to Guam.
That was deployed, yes.
Is there anybody else that needed to be tested from this unit? That is it, 127.
For that unit specifically, they were the only ones. Then the two that were tested who are not in the same unit. And so now it's for us, public health, to do outside the gate for our local residents.
You said that unit. So is there another unit that's being tested?
No, ma'am. No other unit being tested. But again, I'm not privy to all the different units that have a rotational schedule out
neither
here.
are we.
Again, it's something that normally regularly happens for rotation of units being deployed to Guam and other parts of the Pacific region. So I'm aware of this unit that has the issue of positive cases, and that's who we're focusing on right now.
Okay.
So when are we going to know what establishments and venues these guys went to? Because it's causing undue panic. It is causing undue panic already.
Yes, understood. And when we get the definitive dates for these various establishments, that's where we concentrate again first on the employees, and then that information is shared with my upper management to the Joint Information Center and the Governor's Office.
Yeah, but
in regards to information to be released.
Is it true, Annette, that every day that we don't get this information is another day that somebody local could have went into this establishment, been exposed, maybe, God forbid, contracted COVID, and then gone on and infected Lord knows how many other people? Isn't that accurate?
That is accurate. However, I also would like to point out this may not be the only place that an individual could be exposed, and so that's why we have to continue to reemphasize. Locally, our cases have gone down. However, we are seeing again with the opening of the airlines, as we relax the restriction of movements locally, that people are increasing on gathering and going out and about. So again, we have to emphasize practice social distancing, wear your mask, don't touch your face, stay home if you're sick. Distance yourself from someone sick because you don't know if that individual also may have it and may be unknowingly exposing it to you. So again, as much as possible, take all necessary precaution because with this virus, and especially because person to person through coughing, sneezing, and direct contact, you could be exposed. And again, our biggest concern has been a lot of these cases too are asymptomatic. So again, as much as possible, if you don't need to go out, don't go out. So again, that's why we also have to backtrack and see, okay, are the people who work at these establishments, are they already in our database for being known contacts of someone else? Because what if they were never tested, they were never symptomatic, and not realizing they actually had COVID before? So those are the things that my team has to sift through. And again, we can't just blame only these military cases. There's still COVID going around the world. We're having more travelers coming back or residents returning to Guam who've been in places that are hot spots or been in the mainland where there are still cases or resurgence of cases. So again, for us to say, oh, just these military cases, no, that's not totally correct, because we just don't know. Someone else may have had it and not tested, and they're asymptomatic. So again, we just want to continue to urge people to be cautious, take the, social distancing, wear your mask, wash your hands frequently, cover your cough. And as much as possible, it's a community effort. We definitely need the support and help of our residents.
We're wearing our masks in here, Annette.
Annette, I wanted to go back to these 127 service members and this particular unit. Are you aware of whether any other service members, units, anybody else that was deployed and was staying at the Reef Hotel?
I'm only aware of this unit, ma'am, that was at Reef Hotel.
Okay.
And in regards to any other military, to date, besides those two that were reported recently with the other from the unit, those are the only other military that have been reported with COVID from a different unit.
But they were they healthcare workers?
Yes, but they are not from this unit.
Right.
But were they staying at the Reef?
No. They're different unit. They've been here longer than that unit that was deployed here.
Do you know where they were staying? Were they staying off base?
That one, they are being handled by the military, and so we are not being asked to assist. So that would be on base.
So they never went off base.
No, I didn't say that, but that the military is handling them. Our focus is the 35 who were positive that we know were outside the base and who violated restriction of movement.
So with these healthcare workers, even if they might have gone outside the base, you guys aren't conducting any contact tracing investigation on those guys?
No, if the information is provided that they were outside the gate during their infectious period, then that's where we would be informed and we would act accordingly. And so again, it's the timing of when were they outside the gate. If they were outside the gate, and if it was during the infectious period, then yes, public health would be notified and we would initiate our contact tracing.
I'm sorry, when did public health first know of the first positive from this unit? What was the date?
June 13 was when the first positive was reported out to us. Okay. On the Joint Information the military, Anderson through Naval Hospital.
So 10 days later, Annette, we're still waiting to find out what 14 venues these guys went to.
We have information and we've already been acting on it as we get that information.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting mad at you. I feel for you. It's got to be frustrating because you got a job to do, but you can't do it because you got to tippy toe around the military.
Right, and so that's why now we've gone through our chain of command.
Mm-hmm. What is the protocol when the military military units are deployed here? Are they tested upon arrival?
That's a DoD protocol, whether they be tested even prior to coming over to Guam, and so that's their procedure that we don't control. That's the
right. But as far as you are aware, they are DoD's protocol mandates that they are tested,
and they should be tested, and that again the timing of the testing, their arrival, they are already also mandated to do their quarantine for the 14 days. And so again, timing of testing, be it military or local resident, is also critical because we've seen, again, people were testing negative, and then all of a sudden they tested positive. So again, timing of testing from the time you were exposed is essential. And because this is a new virus, there are things that we've had to shift along the way, change and update it as we get more information. But again, timing is critical. You test too soon, you're going to still show negative. You test too far away from the time you were exposed or the time you finished your symptoms or resolved your symptoms, you might show up negative. Then we have individuals who they're testing positive for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, those are all the factors that we have to deal with and sort out. But again, as soon as we get the information, be it local or military, our team does act on it and initiate contact tracing and case investigation.
Mm-hmm. Has the military public health side contact tracing teams informed public health, or do you even know how many contact tracing investigations they're conducting? Because you mentioned this one, right? And then there's the other one involving the 2 healthcare workers. Are there any more?
No, ma'am. They are handling the active duty members and in the base. For those that are the exposure is outside the gate, they do notify us, and that's where our team is handling for any individual that is possibly outside the gate, be it an establishment or work contact or close contact. Then that's public health works with the military in regards to that.
Okay, so
but no one else.
Okay, so as far as you're aware, they're only conducting 2 contact tracing investigations
outside of that unit. Yes, ma'am.
Outside. Wait, so it's the one involving the reef, and then the one involving the healthcare workers, right?
Correct.
And no other ones.
No other ones.
Okay.
And I know you can't tell us where this unit came from, but can you say, was it a hotspot? And do you think that they brought the virus with them?
Well, I know the definition of hotspot changes all the time. There are, and again, if from the mainland and other parts of, U.S.-based military establishment, you could say there are some who are being deployed that come from areas within the mainland. And again, you're seeing the resurgence in various states, and so that is concerning. And to note, we also have returning residents who, at the quarantine sites, that where we found cases, in these past few weeks. So again, not to just say only the military, but we do have civilians who are either returning Guam residents
Yeah,
or
but
they're
we don't have
residents.
civilians who are 35 positive cases. I understand. I know you're working with the military and you want to be careful not to say anything to get their feelings hurt, but I get it. I do. What about Alaska? Because we're hearing that, were they from Alaska? Were some of these guys from Alaska?
I cannot confirm or deny that, sir.
Oklahoma?
Not going to state it.
Can we come up with a code? Blink twice if it's Alaska. Blink twice if it's Alaska.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be invasive, but I'm not authorized to release any
All
of that
right.
information.
That's the problem, I think, here. Is, this is just another reminder that there's 2 Guams on one Guam. There's one in there and behind the fence and one out here.
Understood, yes. I completely understand, and I agree.
And I mean, in this case, sad to say, and I don't think I'm overstating it, this is a matter of life and death. That's what makes it different.
Yeah.
Yes, and so again, which brings up a good point. I thank you for saying that. Is if you're starting to feel any symptoms, please don't wait for public health to call. If you're feeling you're noticing you're having those signs and symptoms, to please seek medical care. And if the doctor feels that we should test, they should test for COVID, then that's an order that they will, write out and have the test done. But again, yes, we are trying to get accurate and complete information so that we can notify the right individuals. But again, as we wait and you're noticing signs and symptoms in yourself or your family member, coworker, to please seek medical care so that, again, we can determine is it COVID or not, and take the necessary steps for investigation and contact tracing and to prevent further spread of it in our community.
Well, it just is just frustrating because you saw this transparency during the whole Theodore Roosevelt effort, and with the Navy, and here we are with the Air Force, and it's just so different. I just don't understand.
Manoni seemed kind of annoyed at the Air Force. I mean, I would be what are they, Chair Force? I mean, the Roosevelt. There was a lot of transparency, yes, and people were complaining about it, but it was handled, I feel, the best way it could be handled. You didn't hear anything about the Navy going out and eating in Talafofo or whatever. But obviously, everyone makes these jokes about the Air Force is so lax and they got the easiest.
I don't think so.
No, I mean that's what I hear.
They got the planes up there, so.
Right. I mean, and yes, we expect and we would want every military branch, especially if they're coming to Guam, be it for a short deployment or rotational basis, that yes, and it shouldn't be this inside versus the outside the gate.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that is the reality.
We're not making
But
it
yes,
like that.
Yeah, it should be where if DOD has the protocol, it's followed across the board, regardless of what military branch. And yes, U.S. Teddy Roosevelt was kind of unique. They came in knowing they had sick individuals, and so they kind of were their own floating city over there, and so that's why too we didn't put them into our account. So it's slightly different versus these individuals. They were outside the gate in one of our hotels,
Right.
and so that's why now they're in our count. That we're having to assist in regards to contact tracing. But yes, I agree that the DOD, yes, it should be across the board, these quarantine protocol and testing protocol and following those restriction movements, because yes, we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Amen.
But we will definitely do our part to take care of what we have to ensure for our residents who were possibly exposed, and continue to do what we need to do to notify those who have been identified and to test them as needed.
Well, thank you, Annette.
Thanks, Annette.
Yeah.
When you're ready to release the list of the 14 venues,
I'm gonna text you all day.
make sure to spread the word.
I don't.
You're gonna be so sick of us. Give it to them already.
Do you think the military has access to your cell phone? Because I'd like to text you offline, but I don't want to. I don't want it to be picked up by the satellites or anything.
I would hope not. That would be, yes, definitely Big Brother. That would not make me comfortable at all.
Okay, well, thank you for the work
Thank
you're
you.
doing, and I'm sorry that you have to deal with these obstacles, because it definitely sounds like you're taking your job serious and you're passionate and you want the people of Guam to know, but you're not the boss, so.
Yes, but thank you too for helping, keep the people informed and to emphasize about, keeping everyone safe and as well as protecting ourselves.
Yep, wash your hands, Annette.
Wear your mask.
We are that media that is responsible with saying, hey, stay home. Hey, listen to the orders. Hey, wear your mask. That's us. We're not out here like hating and not, burning our masks because we don't agree with somebody. we're taking it serious, and I think that's the bottom line, is that the military, for whatever reason, at least in the case of these airmen, feel that our rules don't apply to them, that they're somehow above them, and that's why it doesn't sit well with me.
Yes, and I know those individuals will be dealt with accordingly.
Ooh, I hope so. What do you think's going to happen? They're going to peel potatoes for 20 years or what? Do they still do that in the military?
I'm not too sure, but I know that
send them to Guantanamo Bay.
The individuals we've talked to, our counterparts, know that they were definitely not happy with this, and that there will be repercussions for violation of those orders, and so that helps reassure us that, yes, it's after the fact, but again, it'll help prevent future repeats. But yes, I do want to thank both
I would have liked to hear that from General Boswell. I would have liked to hear, what we're going to do with these guys? We're going to take them out behind the woodshed and make sure that they don't ever do that again.
Oh, my gosh.
What?
No comment.
That's what you guys do with Ed Byrne all the time.
That's what we do with Ed Byrne. We're being consistent. I got to go. I'm going to get chewed out. Thank you, Annette.
Thanks, Annette. Stay safe.
Wash your hands. All right.
And thank you for what you guys are doing.
All right.
All right. Thank you, too.
All right. Okay. Yeah, thank you, Annette, definitely for that. Hey, let's keep it going on the phones here. We got just a little bit of time. We're getting Lieutenant Governor Josh in a few minutes, and we also got to do news. But I wanted to bring Senator Clint Rigel on because, good morning, Senator.
Hi, good morning.
By the way, congratulations.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I saw that Father's Day announcement, so your third baby on the way. Like Bree said, congrats.
Thanks. Yeah.
Now on to official business. So you had a bill, and just tell us about the bill you had, because we had talked with Dr. Shea about testing tourists and airport testing. So just go ahead.
Yeah. So as you were speaking with Dr. Shea, and I agree with him about how we should be testing people at the airport. So actually, myself and a couple other senators were working on legislation. Senator Pito Terlahi and Speaker Tina Muñoz Barnes. And it would require testing at the airport, but basically, a lot of members of the tourism business industry community came out strongly against it. We met with some of them. Specifically, it's Mike Israel, Mark Valdiga, even the head of the United Airlines here on Guam. Mm-hmm. We had a meeting with them, and they all basically told us that it was a horrible idea, that It would chase tourists away. We wouldn't have any tourists come here. It was unnecessary. All we need to do is do temperature checks at the airport. They basically slammed us, and said that we didn't know what we were talking about, and we don't know anything about tourism, so we should leave it to the experts. And so I talked to Dr. Shea about this, actually, because I didn't know that he was a proponent of this idea as well. I was actually looking for a doctor that would come out and say that this is something we should do, because that was sort of the other reason we were stuck. They were kind of saying that we're not medical experts, we're not doctors, neither are we tourism experts, we're not, so leave it to the experts to do this. So we kind of backed off and said, all right, fine, I guess, So I kind of wish that I had known Dr. Shea supported this idea in the beginning. I just never spoke with him about it. I was actually looking for a doctor, but I wasn't sure who would be in support of this idea until I started hearing Dr. Shea talk.
There's actually a few of them, Senator. Hold on, sorry. We're KUAM FM. I got you, Guam. Again, it's the KUAM News Takeover of containing COVID. We're now live on KUAM on TV 11. Good morning! And also to our Facebook Live viewers on the Edward R. Murrow award-winning social media networks of KUAM and right here on the radio. On the line now, Senator Clint Rogel. We're discussing COVID-19 testing at the airport. He had a bill that was basically crucified by members of the private sector, and part of it was they said, oh, we don't have any medical input. And so now you're saying that if only you had spoke with Dr. Shea, who is now pushing this same idea in a chain email that he sent out to a bunch of people.
Yeah, I think it would have helped, because we would have at least had a medical expert be able to weigh in on it and talk about the importance of it. So unfortunately, I didn't know he was the proponent of it back then when we met with them. So we basically pulled back and said, all right, forget it. So the biggest issue they were saying is that it would just totally kill any chance of any tourists coming here, and that it was unnecessary, and that all we need to do is do like temperature checks at the airport. So yeah, I mean, I do think it's something we should definitely reconsider. So I mean, especially in light of what Dr. Shea is saying, in light of the airmen or whoever they are in the military that tested positive. So, if we want to prevent a second wave from coming to Guam, I don't really think we ever had a first wave, but I think that's actually because we did great with the measures we had that we put in place quickly, wearing of masks in public, all the measures that we put in. I think that prevented a major first. We didn't really have much of a first wave, and I think that's a testament to the procedures we put in place island-wide. So to prevent, a real wave from coming or any other wave from coming, I think we have to think about these kinds of things, about how do we test people at the airport, and how do we, I think also contact tracing is a very important issue too. It's something else we're also working on as well at the legislature. I'm working on some legislation with some of my colleagues to do to help figure out how we can improve contact tracing. I do think public health's been doing a pretty good job of contact tracing, but it's a lot of work, and you need a lot of people to be able to do it. They're even talking in the States about increasing contact tracing efforts there. And it's what we see in our source markets for tourism. Right. And all our source markets in Asia, they're very good about contact tracing. They're used to downloading apps to their phones that sort of show them where they've been. Dr. Shea was talking about having tourists check in and say every place they've stopped at, so that we can contact trace if they do turn out to be positive later, if they develop symptoms while here, that we can contact trace by seeing, having them report every place they went to or shopped at or ate at. There's apps now that you can download that do that, and they do that in a lot of these countries like South Korea, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Japan. So I think these are things we definitely need to start thinking about as we look to reopen the economy.
Well, we were talking a lot about the airport. What have you heard anything about why Tom Atta resigned?
I have not a clue, no idea.
It was pretty
abrupt. I heard about it was when it was reported in the news. I think the news broke last night.
Yeah.
It wasn't even. I'm not even the one who saw that. My wife was online, I guess on Facebook, and she's like, "Hey, did you see this?" So that's the first I heard.
Oh yeah, I did, honey. Of course I saw that. yeah. Tom resigned.
No, I didn't. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, what are you hearing though? I saw you were up early. So did you get any calls about it, or any talk about a replacement?
No, I haven't heard anything about it, and and also the airport is not my I don't have oversight of the airport, so it's not really usually if you have oversight, then that's something where
Yeah.
they may call you from the administration and say, hey, there's going to be a new person or whatever.
My bad. You have oversight of the port, right?
Right.
Okay. So is the airport, that is Vice Speaker, is it?
Correct. Yes, that's
Okay.
Vice Speaker Nelson. So maybe she might have heard something, but I haven't.
Okay.
I just got chewed out again.
What's that?
Hey, there's a
I'll
port
tell
in
you
the
when I heard
airport.
something.
Mhm.
I have,
Where are we then with your recreational marijuana, your law?
oh yeah.
I know the last
as a
time we
matter of
spoke.
fa-
Okay.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, so the Cannabis Control Board is close to finishing it. They basically things got put on hold because of coronavirus. They stopped meeting. So I've been talking with them, with the members, and working with them to try to figure out how they can continue to meet again, but this time, via Zoom and other methods. So one of the things they have to do is they also have to hold a public hearing on the proposed rules and regs. So they're almost done with it, and then once they release it, then they have to hold some public hearings for it, and that's before it even makes its way to the legislature. So my understanding is they're very close to finishing it. They just need to have a few more meetings to kind of wrap it up, put out the final thing, and then they're trying to figure out how to do, public hearings with COVID, basically.
Yeah.
So I'm working with them to figure that out because there are some procedures that we use at the legislature, to do public hearings for bills that we've started implementing. So I'm going to help them out with that and share some of the stuff that we do. So hopefully they can get back on track quickly and get that going, because that also ties into, I think, the economy and tourism. I've spoken with some people who believe wholeheartedly that cannabis tourism would really entice tourists to Guam, even during a pandemic. In fact, they think that those are the type of tourists that would be more willing to come here for something that they can't get in their home country, and be willing to come here during a pandemic because they know they can enjoy
The stone don't
safe
stop.
adult use
I
cannabis.
like that. What do you think, Sabrina?
What's that?
The stone don't stop. Come to Guam.
Don't stop.
No, yeah, that was actually going to be my next question, Senator. Is as we start to stand up tourism on however many legs it's going to have. I think having that weed option in our pocket is a good one. The more, the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's definitely like sort of a novelty that would attract tourists here. I mean, because right now we've got to attract tourists, but also we got to make sure that they believe Guam is safe, that they won't get coronavirus coming here, traveling here, that we've got everything in order here, and at the same time we got to give them a reason why should they risk traveling. During these types of events, because it's happened with SARS before. We saw tourism downturn on Guam with SARS, and we didn't even have any SARS cases on Guam that I can recall. I don't think we had any SARS on Guam, but we still saw a loss in tourists. And my understanding, the reason for that is because during these types of outbreaks or pandemics or whatever you want to call it, that the tourists tend to shy away from airports because airports are generally crowded places. So they don't want to go travel and mingle with a bunch of people who are transiting through from other countries. And so, they kind of shy away from the airports. And you actually see it worldwide. Travel is down worldwide. Tourism across the globe is suffering right now. So we have to find a way to entice tourists and give tourists a reason to even want to travel to Guam.
I just got something here, Senator. Santorini in Greece is opening up with required random testing. They get 2 million tourists a year.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I also think Hawaii is working on something similar, but I got to double check on that. But I think Hawaii may be working on a similar type of thing.
But let me just ask you, because we're getting Lieutenant Governor in just a couple minutes. Do we need to move back the date of the tourism reopening, or do you think, hey, well, let's just open, nobody comes, big deal, at least we're just open?
Actually, I think we should stick with the date. Yeah, we got to reopen. I mean, our numbers are actually very good, except for the spike from the military side. I've been, sort of tracking the numbers pretty religiously since the whole outbreak began. and the numbers look good. I mean, we increased. Normally, when you increase testing, like President Trump says, you're going to see more. In fact, he's recently quoted saying that they should stop testing because they saw too many numbers. Right?
Yeah.
We didn't see an increase in numbers. In fact, quite the opposite. We saw it like we would test 100 some people and it'd be 0, or now every now and then it's 2 or 1. And those are low numbers. Compared to before, we were testing, there'll be 5 positive, 7 positive, 8 positive, with a smaller batch of tests, with less people tested. So I think our numbers are great, except for the spike due to the military. But I think as long as we properly contact trace and isolate that, then we'll be fine. And that's going to be the key going forward, is quickly finding these little outbreaks here and there, if that's the correct word. I'm not sure what's the correct medical term, but these little areas where there might be a little cluster of COVID, finding it quickly, identifying it, contact tracing it, and isolating. I kind of use this analogy. It's like having little fires break out around the place, and you got to kind of identify the fire quickly, snuff it out before it spreads. And as long as we do that, then I think we'll be fine.
All right. Thanks, Senator Rogel. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
No, just, stay safe, and, like Chris always likes to say, wash your hands.
All right. Thanks, Clint. Take care.
Thank you.
Tell Teresa said hi.
I will.
All right. Take care. All right. So obviously he's not the chair of the
my
airport.
bad. I'm sorry.
Hopefully we can get the vice speaker on.
It's one thing to mess up, but to mess up at that level and on a Facebook Live, I'm sorry, Bree.
Okay.
No.
Bree, since we're talking about just numbers real quick before we get to, I know the Lieutenant Governor's coming up.
Okay.
Last night when we wrote up the latest numbers for the report, so we had 2 positive cases out of 103 samples yesterday. Was there any community testing yesterday?
No.
That's because, at least historically as we've gone so far, that's a pretty high number of samples that we've gotten. If there wasn't community testing, we typically haven't hit in triple digits on days that they don't have drive-through community testing yet.
Well, that could have been. I mean, it could have been from testing from previous days. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that thing really stuck out to me because I was like, wow, 103 on a day when we didn't have community testing. So we'll look into that.
I think people just are wanting to get tested. They made a call. They said, hey, if you want to get tested,
or it might have been the military thing, and people were like, okay, well,
I'm sure that's part of it. Maybe.
No. Oh, well, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you meant that was inclusive of the military. No,
people are probably just
the impact of the military story.
Right, and so there's testing today in Barragata, the police Coban area in Barragata, from 9 a.m. to 12 o'clock. And
even though you're wearing a mask.
Yesterday during a press conference, if you're concerned,
your eyebrows did a very distinct thing. What was that about?
Get tested.
Barragata Coban, you mean by the playground in the library or the document?
Yeah, near
by the mayor's office.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, got you. 8:14. Let's keep it going on the phones here and bring on Lieutenant Governor of Guam, Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio. Good morning, LT.
Hey, good morning, Sabrina.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chris.
I guess
how are you guys doing today?
We're doing pretty good. Crazy busy. A lot of stuff going on. So many things.
Here too.
Right.
Yeah.
and I know you.
More so for you.
Right.
You guys got a press conference, I think, in a little bit. Or
right,
today.
For GVB. But could we just first start with Tom Atta? What can you
Thanks
tell us?
for reminding me about that because I kept in press conference. I'm like, you're right, at 11:30.
Yeah, it's at 11:30. We'll see you there. Or not in person.
It's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm leading it.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, Chris, I interrupted you.
No, it's fine. We're just trying to find out what happened with Tom Atta. There was an abrupt resignation. Came down last night. That tells me something happened.
Well, I think people make choices, and I think the other thing is, people reflect on what's going on in their lives during the COVID, and, he's been an instrumental part of our team and still is a loyal friend and advisor. So I just leave it at that, and he sent out his resignation, and, he has spent decades serving the people, and I would just say that I'm grateful that he was able to help get us elected and help lead the airport during these real precarious times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but usually when someone resigns, they say, for health reasons or, whatever, but we didn't hear any of that. I mean, was he just didn't want to work anymore? I mean, you can't tell us why? He just suddenly quit, and that resignation was effective immediately?
Sabrina, I would defer to him, and that's the only thing I could say. I'd just defer to him and, know that and thank him for his service and count on his continued friendship.
Did you hear anything at all, LT, about any type of complaint that may have been filed against him? Or I'm just asking.
No, nothing like that. I'm, I too was surprised, but, people make decisions. I know that a lot of people are thinking about the kinds of things that, they focus in to improve their quality of their lives. There's been a lot of hardships in his family the last couple of years, and they're very personal. So I just leave it at that.
All right.
I'm sorry. Was it effective immediately?
You know what? He resigns to the board, so
Okay.
I believe it is effective immediately. Yes.
Any word on a replacement? Is there anybody you'd like to see over there?
I think that we'd still think about it, get the advice from the board. Right now, the airport is in a critical time because of the dropping revenues, and also they're in the middle of completing their expansion, and dependent on this refresh of the island and of tourism, and trying to get the confidence level up with our local population and then with our source markets to get this thing moving. And I think we're moving in a very careful but focused way to get that done. So we're stable on all those fronts.
So how do we?
And part of that is going to be this refresh that we're doing. This Saturday, although there's some work going on already around the island to try and clean up, and I mentioned this in the last few weeks, catching up on some lost months we had when the island was pretty much at a standstill. And I'm just grateful that a lot of people in the private sector and the employees from the agencies are volunteering on Saturday. And up to now, actually, even as we speak, the mayors are catching up on a lot of the work on the roadsides. And then, there's also some infrastructure work we're doing. We're recovering our community. And I don't know if Chris, I don't know what road you go down to Malesut to see the family, but if you're going through Route 4 and Mololo, you'll notice that we're fixing.
Looks good. You're talking about going up the hill and down, right? I know what you're talking about. After Wolford, you do the blind curve, the bamboo. It looks really good.
All the way down to just in front of the Carmelites, the old Carmelites in 76.
Looks good.
That's being done right now, and then we will continue with more projects planned on the roads, and then in a couple weeks I'll be pushing out, and we're just doing the final NEPA stuff, but there's going to be a big investment in a bunch of the parks and recreational areas that are going through the environmental review right now that I think would be are going to be welcomed by people.
LT,
by our local people.
Can we talk a little bit about John Birch? Because Friday he was on here for a public crucifixion, and then we heard that he had he was moved from the DPR to ancestral lands. Someone had asked about it yesterday in the press conference, and the governor said no, it had nothing to do with his handling of the homeless. In fact, she praised how he was helping the homeless. So I guess just what's your take on it? Is there anything we're missing here?
Well, I think that right now we need him to move to the Ancestral Lands Commission, where our director there is put out his retirement, and that is another critical area that that needs to be handled. But I'm confident that we'll get the parks cleaned up, and then on the homeless problem. Last week when I told you, I don't know if you could hear my exasperation, or maybe my muted exasperation, but I'm much more confident that we're going to be able to finally get through and push some options online for homelessness. And the last week, I've been spending a lot of time with the leadership at Catholic Social Services, with Public Works. Chief Procurement Officer has come up to talk to me about options, trying to make sure that we are not victim to landowners price gouging. There's been some of that going on, it looks like. But but you know, the need that the folks that are operating the shelter tell me are, number one, bed for the night. There are a bunch of homeless that are just looking for a place to sleep at night. They're not looking to move into somewhere. There's also emergency shelter for a lot of those people featured in some of the news stories. And then the big one is transitional housing. So all three fronts we're working to try. I think that we'll be able to. I'm very hopeful and confident that we'll be able to get the facilities for the bed for the night and the emergency shelter awarded in the next few days, hopefully by the weekend. And then transitional housing is a bit longer, but there's a path. And so either today or tomorrow, the governor and I will be signing an executive order. One of the things in that executive order is an affirmative mandate for the government to provide shelter. Number two, we are reactivating the Interagency Council on Homelessness that Governor Camacho created about 10 years ago. And the reason we're doing this is there are a lot of agencies out there that have maybe some skin in the game, but nobody is dominantly the main coordinator.
Right.
And to solve that, we're working with the Mayor's Council because they understand what's going on in the villages to respond with a very focused response. And we're kind of we're ironing all of the plans out on that. But I tell you this week, I feel good that we're going to finally get to it and get a pathway done for this very complicated issue.
LT, what's your take on this? The airmen, got so many positive cases, finding out that they defied the orders. Because I'm thinking that we've really built up this relationship you guys have with the military, at least the Navy. I'm not sure, how close you guys are with the Air Force, but just if you could, what's your take on it?
That there's obviously showed that there was a gap here that needed to be a protocol that was not followed, and the Navy posture since the Roosevelt came and what they had been doing, they were an excellent partner. And I think that what happened here is that we found out that there was a gap. That part of it is because of the nature, I guess, of these rotational forces coming in, but I could tell you that the military brass going into Hawaii and D.C. are not very happy with this situation. It really has gone counter to a lot of the goodwill that was built with the Navy because of the TR and then the partnership that resulted from it, including the placement of assets. So I would say that I think that the general and the admiral that came out with the governor to talk about the situation and all of the eyes that are on, I would expect that each of those service members that violated the quarantine are going to be held accountable in the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
Do you know how many have violated that protocol, or a rough estimate?
I don't know yet. I know that there's two tracks. So on the disciplinary front, that's something that the military is looking at. Right now, public health is really concerned about the contact tracing.
Yeah.
And so taking a look at having a separate group that these service members should be truthful about all their contacts, and the government making sure that they reach all of these places and provide opportunities for employees or members of the public to be tested. That's the big priority right now, and that's something that we're very much concerned about. That's the focus of the work we've been doing over the last few days. But yeah, I think that I understand that that these folks, I believe that they'll be held accountable, and we'll make sure that the military keeps us apprised of those efforts.
I heard that Admiral Manoni chewed out General Boswell over this. Because, like you said, they work so hard.
So I can listen to that too.
Right. Let us know if there's audio.
I would expect that obviously, people want to understand why this situation is happening.
Right. The speaker was on the show yesterday, and she was saying that this is basically unacceptable. That she's written to the Attorney General's office and wanting to see these officers held, or these airmen held accountable for violating, I think she said 10 GCA, Chapter 19.
She went into the GCA.
Yeah, she went there.
And I'm pretty sure a lot of that is like, let me just make noise because it's convenient right now.
Well, I think the ultimate punishment is going to be with the military.
Right.
People are, Sabrina, because you have a lot of relatives in the military. This could be career ending, and it might be career ending for some of these folks that if they have established that they violated. I would think that it could be career ending. That's probably the ultimate punishment that an individual could face.
Yeah.
If they're gonna, I think that people violating quarantine, it'd be based on quarantine orders, and the lawyers have to look at that. But I would think that hopefully the speaker's letter that should get the attention over there at the AG's office, and they'll find a path. But I would just tell you that I imagine that the military punishment is going to be swifter and harsher.
Right. I want to just go back into the cleanup for this weekend. You guys still need volunteers, or you guys need them?
We do, and if any individuals or businesses or nonprofit organizations want to get an assignment, feel free to contact my office at 475-9380 or GVB. There's also an online portal that kind of shows all of the different areas on the island. But yes, make sure you bring your mask. And if you're feeling sick, stay home. Don't come out. But bring your mask, bring some gloves. We'll have some trash bags. If you have your own, bring them. But, come out and make sure that we can still do this activity and practice a lot of precautions,
right.
Mitigate and try and protect yourself as we do this. But I'm very confident that we'll be able to have a good response and gain some time that we lost over the crisis.
This is something that I had asked John Birch. We have this massive cleanup of all the public parks, but what happens next? Do we have maintenance contracts in place for the restrooms?
For the restrooms, they do have maintenance contracts. Some of these restrooms, by the way, have just been awarded. There are companies that have been awarded through Public Works to repair restrooms. There's a whole bunch of lists, and maybe after we clear this event, I'll start releasing some of those locations. But the idea is to get them to a good level. Sometimes when they make the repairs, you need to get commercial materials that last longer than things that we would have in our bathrooms. But parks maintenance has been a long-standing problem. Part of it is, driven by staff and resources, but we've been working with Public Works to basically reinforce and support what's going on at Parks and Rec, and we're working on developing a more sustainable approach to how we do this.
And so a part of these contracts, is it going to be more stepped up sanitization, cleaning, like different from the way it was pre-COVID?
So there's contracts I just talked about were to our construction contracts, and what you wanted to find out are about the parks contracts, right, for maintenance.
Yeah.
We usually have a scope of work. I think some of the issue has been that the scope of work called for, there needs to be additional or more frequency to the cleaning. Some bathrooms, based on their frequency, require and have a on-site attendant at all times. For example, that should be the case, or that will be the case down at Inarahan Pool, also Paseo. There's several ones that require that amount, that just a nonstop frequency based on the number of people. But I think it's a definitely good time to refresh and reprioritize. The big challenge for Parks and Rec is going to be in the upcoming budget is this, a lot of their operation is subsidized by the Tourist Attraction Fund, which is in a different state. And so that's going to be something that we have to hash out with the legislature and Ways and Means Committee.
LT, just going back to the positive airmen who defied direct orders and jeopardized our community, are you satisfied that public health, in terms of the investigation, it's been 10 days. We still don't know where these guys went. People of Guam are kind of anxious about this, wanting to know answers. Do you think that's acceptable, or do we need to kind of step it up, or is it something that's being hampered by having to deal with the military?
You know what? I'll take a look at that with that tint when we speak with them today. As I understand it, the people that are in charge of the contact tracing and interviews are finally getting to interview them. So there is a few days, I think, that they could have been in there a bit faster. I think it's probably resulting from people on the military side not expecting to see this amount of spread in a unit. I mean, I have to say that, remember that, even General Boswell up there, this group it's a transitory group. And what it tells me is that, when you have different visiting units and their commanding officers are elsewhere, sometimes you see some of these problems. And I think that everything I've been hearing about has been the Admiral pressuring the rest of the military to make sure that there is no gap, and that no matter what, any service member coming into town needs to play by the rules.
LT, we got a tip here. Bobby Alvarez, the new airport executive manager. Any truth to that?
No truth to that I believe. Nope, I don't think that's in the cards for Bobby.
Sorry, guys.
No, that's not to be offensive, but that's not something that I don't think he's aspired to. So we'll let the airport make their announcements, guys.
Okay. All right. I had a short list here, LT, of suggestions if you want, but I'll text you.
Yeah, you can tell me later.
Yeah, the last four are funnier than Bobby.
For you next Tuesday, I want to try and I'll give you a week's notice. I want to come up in studio with you guys.
Ooh, all right.
Oh, wow. Sounds good. You bringing food?
Well, I'm going to be coming from the south, so yeah, I can.
There you go. I'll tell you where to get the good empanada.
Oh, I already know.
Okay,
Maybe
good.
we might have to debate about it, but because there's a lot of different pockets. But one of them I know is in Santa Rita.
Yeah. We had that one yesterday.
Oh no, it's very good.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Pop's Bakery down in Agate.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what? I will get up early and I will make sure that you guys can enjoy the delicacies of the South up north in your studios.
Hey, thank you, LT. And you be safe. Wash your hands.
All right, take care.
Look forward to speaking with you again, and thanks again for getting the word out to the people.
All right.
We'll see you at the press conference.
All right. Bye-bye.
Okay. Wash your hands. 8:34. Lieutenant Governor Guam, Josh Tenorio.
Yes, Jason?
Okay, and just to follow up on it, we were talking about that thing, and I was like, the number that really stuck out to me was 103 samples. I was like, kind of like abnormally large.
Yeah.
Our friends at Alup actually said they're like, yeah, that was the reef testing.
That was the reef testing.
Yeah, so over 70 of those 103 samples were reef staffers.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Thanks. Jason Solis, everybody, he's here too. We're gonna take a short break. We got Superintendent John Fernandez coming up on Containing COVID. It's the KUAM News Takeover, Guam's favorite Good Morning.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV 8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 Virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD. Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
A little 3-time steady. It's containing COVID. Proudly brought to you by Calvo Enterprises, Ambrose Inc., IT&E Coast 360, and the Bank of Guam. Good morning, Tuesday, 8:44. Just a lot of stuff. Now, you guys, if you could share the show. A lot of info, especially for those of you who have been following and who hasn't been following the case of these COVID-19 positives out of the Anderson Air Force Base. Finding out that they were gallivanting all around Guam. 14 different venues. Public Health is now doing contact tracing investigations, at least that they have found out about. And in talking with Annette Uggan, who is the lead of the Public Health's contact tracing team, they got to wait to get the info from the military. So that she admitted that slows everything down. She also admitted that every hour, every day that we don't know information in this case is another day that people are exposed and jeopardized. So that's why we take it serious. We wanted to get her on. I mean, it's not like we can get the general or the admiral or the general, since it's Air Force, but that would be great. 8:45, the show, so many ways to catch it right here on the radio. Again, we're KUAM-FM, Agani, Guam. Also, there's an audio stream, Docomo Channel 10, KUAM.com, the KUAM News app, and KUAM TV 11. Good morning, and last but not least, on the Edward R. Murrow award-winning social media networks at KUAM, good morning to our Facebook Live viewers, where we'll now go to the phones and do our weekly check-in with the Guam Department of Education Superintendent, John Fernandez. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning. How are they?
Good morning.
I guess, first of all, we got some graphics that we're going to pop up here while we chat. You want to just kind of go in on this, John? So these are measures that, and we haven't had a firm announcement on when schools will reopen, correct?
We don't. So,
right.
Right now, the scheduled start date is August 11th, and we're currently, looking at whether that date will remain in place. We're going to be going to the board by the end of this month to solidify the schedule for the coming year. So we still have some more time to kind of work through what needs to happen before we can open up schools. And then, if the date changes, we'll let everybody know.
Right. And so,
definitely by the end of June.
Right. And these graphics we're going to throw up, these are measures that will be in place when schools do reopen, right?
Well, definitely, let's. I guess the proper perspective here is to think about, every other facet of our community. We talk about phasing in and starting to recover and reopen. So the things that we're putting in place now are kind of in that same spirit, that we want to phase in our reopening. But later on, things might change. Things could change as the health environment gets better, as things change on the island overall. So for the opening phase, we definitely are concerned about safety, and so we're taking the measures that we believe are needed in accordance with CDC guidelines and the guidelines from our medical experts to put these protective measures in place at every school. And that includes, of course, things like wearing a face mask. We are working to get the equipment in for temperature checks when kids come to school. Physical distancing is actually one of the main drivers of our schedule because of the capacity for every facility to receive students, and then definitely a lot of hygiene, a lot of focus on hygiene, washing your hands, and so forth, and of course cleaning the surfaces in the classroom and in high traffic areas. So I think the message for everybody is safety is the priority for our schools, and actually that's what's driving a lot of these other decisions.
Mm-hmm. So how close are we on making final decisions on the start of school?
So I think the way we're going about it is June 30th is a scheduled regular board meeting at which time the board will make a decision. And of course the board's what we're asking the board is to really affirm the plan that we have in place. So to put to bed any of the questions, any concerns, any issues that have been raised, so that the board and the department as a whole can work in unity, with this plan going forward. I think it's very, very difficult if you move forward and the people are still, people within the organization are still questioning and still, having issues. So we really wanted to get through this debate and discussion this month, have a plan in place by the end of June, and so we could basically focus July and August on implementation and preparation for the actual opening. So that doesn't mean that there won't be flexibility to adjust the plan as things change on the island. I think the board's talking about, definitely want some flexibility there. Should things change, should there be an immediate need to address the safety issues. But for the most part, we want things in place and things decided that'll help us communicate, what those decisions are during the next, 6 to 8 weeks prior to school starting. So I think the key thing, as you'll note from the graphics that you received, is number one, definitely safety is the biggest concern, and we know parents are going to be concerned about that. Number one, and then the second issue is really going to be how are kids going to receive the instruction. And right now, based on physical distancing, as we've talked about, we are going to be able to serve up to 1/3 of our school population at any one time, which means that we will be going to, at least we're recommending at this point, what we call an ABC alternate schedules, so that basically the student population is divided into 3 groups, which will go 1 day in class and 2 days of distance learning, and we'll just repeat through this first phase. So it's a big change. It's a big decision. But based on the safety parameters that are really driving a lot of this, it seems to be the one that we're going to have to work with and try. And of course, look to improve as we go forward.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just looking at that alternating class schedule sequence and the alphabetical cohorts that you plan on dividing them into. But what if there are parents that still may be, leery of wanting to send their child to school? Is there options for them?
Right. So as part of, again, as part of the summer work and also in the first few weeks of school, we recognize that there may be families exactly in that same position where they don't want to send their kids to school at all, if possible, right? If they can keep them at home.
Yeah.
And some may opt for the 100%, home learning, whether it's online or whether it's through hard copies. What we're going to need to do, though, is get them to register that preference so we can start to reorganize the schedules around those preferences. It would be nice to be able to accommodate every family, but right now during the summer, it's hard because we don't have all that information at our fingertips. So we are collecting that information through those who are registering over the summer. And then when we start in the first couple of weeks of the school year, we're going to want to solidify that information. And so it's very important for parents to communicate this with their schools. Okay.
So the three options, it's the home learning online instruction, the home learning hard copies, and the traditional face-to-face. I'm sorry, did you say you guys were doing a survey to determine what options?
Right. Well, what we're doing is we're trying to collect that information.
Uh-huh.
So as you know, during registration or in the first couple of weeks of school, we're trying to collect basic information, such as even contact information, updated contact information for parents, and so forth. So this year, the additional question is going to be, number one, here are the options for learning this year. Do you have a preference? Number one, and number two, I think when it comes to technology, are you able to meet the requirements? For online learning, for instance. So we want to know two things. One is, what is the appetite for parents to send their kids back to school physically, given that we're still under this COVID-19 situation. And two, for those who are at home, even though we have sample surveys, we really want 100% understanding of who has access to the internet, who has access to equipment, laptops, tablets, so that we can work with our federal funds to fill the gaps for those who don't, so that eventually, if we have to continue to do distance learning over the long term, we have everything in place so that students are not going to be left, without that kind of connectivity.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I know that we talked about this, I think it was last week, about possibly seeing students from private schools migrate and enroll into public schools because of what's happening. Is that something, have you received any inquiries regarding that or any numbers?
Well, mostly registration happens at the school sites, and we know that we just, basically have closed out the last school year, graduations and so forth. And today, I believe, we'll be getting the detailed information out to the public, and we'll be happy if you guys can press it out as well.
Yes, of course.
We'll let the public know that registration is ongoing, and to provide the contact information, both email and phone numbers, for how, for those who want to, basically call the school or contact the school to begin the registration process.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have that detailed information. It was supposed to go out today, so we'll try to push that out. But really, over the summer, as parents, especially parents who are coming in new to the school system, we're going to want them to contact, someone in the department. Hopefully they know which school they're going to go to, but we can help them with that. But once they contact the school, they'll be able to walk through the registration process, and we'll be able to get the information we need for their students.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about the Facebook Live that I think the last time we spoke, and the plan that was being presented over Facebook Live and as well to the board. What feedback did you guys receive from that stream, and recommendations that you may?
Right.
Go ahead.
I think what's really going on here, and I think this is really good, and I think if you notice about the Department of Education, we're sometimes very repetitive, because as we've done these weekly talks, we've been able to kind of give you updates, gradual updates, and you see what stayed the same, in terms of safety issues, and you've seen things that have changed over time. And that's what we really wanted the board involved in, so that they understood the thought process going forward. So every conversation we have evolves to some of the next issues that we need to be considering. So at this point, I think we are pretty close to final decisions on the scheduling, at least to start off the school year, on the safety precautions. And people have really spent a lot of time thinking about safety, distance learning, and scheduling. Now we're starting to think about two things where we really need to solidify the plan and get the information out. And these are for parents of students with special needs. I believe I think this morning we're having a work session, a continued work session on special education and how we're going to serve and work with our families of students with special needs. That's a big priority, and people are asking more and more questions about how that's going to work in light of our schedules. Same thing for students parents, families of students where English is a second language. So that's another discussion that we're going to just solidify the details and plans for. And then we're really actually turning our attention to what happens after the board, takes a vote and gives us that green light to go ahead. So we're turning our attention to implementation. It's nice to have a plan, but what do we do from July 1st to the opening of schools to get teachers ready, administrators ready, staff, and so forth for that opening date, parents and students as well. And so we're talking about things like mental health training, right? We focus on mental health, but in order for us to carry out our support at the school level, it's very important that we're cognizant of and we're trying to address the mental health and socio-emotional needs of our current 12-month employees. So our administrators and staff at the schools who have to carry out this very complex and new type of reopening process. We also know they're under stress, and they've haven't had much of a break since we shut down, because they've been working throughout the time. So we're looking at providing training to our 12-month employees and administrators. We're working on also providing services to the extent they feel they kind of need that support, and it'll help us understand the demand for mental health services and support. And then we're going to try to get to a point where when we open the school year, we're able to attend to those needs at the school level. We're having conversations about teaching and learning being central to our mission, but the fact is, as employees, our teachers, our students come back to the classrooms, it's going to be a real transition to get back to any state of normalcy in teaching and learning. A lot of it's going to be that socio-emotional readjustment coming back in, and we want to make sure that we don't just open up on day one and say, here's your syllabus, let's get down to some homework. I think it's going to be important that we talk about how people feel, how people have adjusted to the changes, what our kids have gone through over the summer, over the shutdown, and really make sure they're in a place where they can get back to the job of teaching and learning, but do so where we're sensitive to some of the what I consider trauma over the last few weeks, few months.
What about teachers, support staff, janitors? Do you guys have enough to accommodate this new normal?
Well, I think right now, those are things that we're going to continue to learn as we go through the process. So right now we are. So before the final vote in June, we still have some planned meetings. Tomorrow at 3:00, we are having a reconvening our parent group to work through additional questions and issues that they still might want us to address. We have another work session with the board this Friday to go over again any remaining issues. We also are going to sit down with the leadership of the Guam Federation of Teachers to talk about what's coming this year. So we know that we're all going to have to work together to make things happen this year. So working with the GFT and understanding what's going to be asked of teachers and staff, that'll be important. And they've been part of these discussions the whole time, but we really want to talk now in detail about how this might impact, our collective bargaining agreement for the year, how we will be going through the details of prioritizing teachers who are going to say, I want to stay home do the online learning versus, being in the classroom, or the safety concerns and accommodations that might be needed. So there are a lot of details to be worked out, but we're partnering with them to go through those details now as we turn our attention to implementation.
Mm-hmm. Do we have enough teachers?
Well, we always are running short, and so one of the challenges, this year is that we typically fill a lot of our vacancies, remaining vacancies with our retirees who come back. There's, fully certified retirees who come back and double dip because of the fact that we're normally short full-time certified teachers. So there, we typically have maybe about 200 retirees who come and help us. And we appreciate their service, but we're also very sensitive to the fact that there may be some opting out this year. And we're actually in the middle of that process, of the recruitment process, and solidifying those positions that, of people who said they definitely want to return. But we anticipate there may be a group, a number of teachers who say, look, I'm kind of concerned about coming back. And it could be that, one is I'm concerned about my safety, my health, maybe one thing. Or number two, you guys are going to distance learning. I don't know if I'm up for that. And maybe we'll get, people who are not as comfortable coming back. And that'll be a concern for us. But we don't have the data yet because we're still in that process.
What about school nurses? Are we going to have school nurses on every campus?
Well, we have been able to support school nurses on every campus. We've been able to hire, recruit, and retain our nurses. One of the challenges, of course, is that they've been activated throughout this time and throughout the summer. And but we hope that, and we anticipate that they will be returned and be able to come back to the school because they're going to be critical parts of our efforts to maintain safe campuses. Obviously, we can go through the planning and a lot of training, but what happens on a day-to-day basis when people are on campus wanting some advice, they're going to go to the school nurses. So it's nice to have our school nurses on campus, and then our school nurses communicate with public health and so forth. So we hope to do that, but I think that one of the challenges is that we recognize that there is a possibility, as people talk about, a second wave.
Yeah.
And one of the things we need to know is if something happens in the middle of the school year, how do we address that? Because we're going to still need their support on campus. But obviously, if the governor calls for them to report, we're going to need to respond to that too. So that's one of the things that we haven't quite worked out yet, but needs to be worked out.
Okay, but that is the goal, is to have a school nurse.
Yes. Our expectation is that our nurses are going to be on campus and supporting our, keeping our campuses safe, attending to kids, helping us, address issues of, kids coming to schools if they have symptoms. What are the protocols that we need to do if someone tests positive? They're going to be the support network, really, to help us with our reopening process.
Okay, but those are just still in discussions.
Yeah, well, they're going to be back. It's just the discussion is going to be what happens if they're called to duty again. So this year, the past few months we shut down the school system, so there wasn't really an issue. But if we're in the middle of the school year and schools remain open, but you're calling our nurses to report to the hospital, then we're going to have to sort that out.
Yeah.
John, I just had three issues, questions. First, we're getting a lot of people asking about sports. So I guess we'll just start with that.
Right.
Have you even started talking about that at all, or?
Oh yes, so we have. What we're trying to do is make sure that we do these, both the GDOE, general opening plan. We do those, and the East and the sports plan. We want those things to work in tandem. So we do have proposals from the athletic directors and coaches as part of our league. Our sports season reopening. Obviously, we've had them kind of look around and the country to see what others are doing to make sure we kind of understand, what issues we should be attending to in addition to the ones we're already working on. But also, I think sorting through the sports that are offered and trying to anticipate the scenarios that we might see through the year. So, I think the first thing that people can assume is that, we're going to be looking at which sports are kind of high risk and which are low risk when it comes to transmission of COVID-19. And so, looking for those lesser contact sports and seeing, whether it makes sense to move them earlier in the year versus keep them later in the year. Those are the discussions that are going on now. And I know there's a proposal out there that's ready to be vetted, but we want to share that with the board before we make any final determinations, because it has to work hand in hand with our other opening plans.
Right. Chess Club, this is your time to shine. Academic Challenge Bowl, let's go.
Yeah, well, esports is gonna really be also take off this year. I can anticipate. It was going to be a pilot this year, but you know what? We're going to have a lot of kids who are going to be interested in joining that as well.
Right. The second one was the testing. How integral, or is it testing a part of you guys' push to reopen the schools, testing the employees, John?
So we haven't. It's on our in our planning to seek the possibility of testing as much as possible for our employees, but it's not something that we've had any commitment yet because obviously we've heard about the shortages and early shortages of the supplies of tests, but as we've seen the testing become more broader and more available, we want to explore that as an opportunity for our employees. But at this point, we are planning in the eventuality that we don't have a test. We're going to be looking at the same things that everybody's looking at every restaurant, every store. Looking at symptoms, temperature checks, and so forth as a matter of screening. For people who might need additional attention.
Just thinking out loud, does DOE have the, I don't know if authority is the right word, but if are you guys able to keep tests at the school sites and then test a student or an employee on the spot?
I don't. That's not something I think that we do have the authority, because we at least right now we haven't planned for it in that manner. Okay. Things do take of course, as you know, things do take a different. They look different when you apply them in the school system as well. So we have a lot of discussion about confidentiality, about student records and health records, and that's been a major issue for us as well, making sure we attend to the confidentiality requirements as they apply to the educational system. So we're going to have to be a little bit more careful as we walk through how the medical situations are handled. Even screening employees, knowing that many employees might fall into the high risk category, we have to remind our supervisors, don't go asking questions that might get you in trouble. Things that of course would already be private. We're still not allowed to ask.
Is GFT are they doing anything with test or discussing with you guys any of these issues that you brought up with the potential testing of employees? Or?
Well, we have a couple. I think we're meeting in a couple of days to kind of go through some of the details around all of these matters involving the employees. Right. So we did have a conversation yesterday with internally with the staff, with our folks, about how we can accommodate employees who do come in with health concerns. And again, it's one of those discussions where you say, don't go out there and ask the employees whether they had these types of conditions and so forth. Those are things that probably would be frowned upon and definitely illegal in certain ways, depending on how it's asked. But there are if employees do come forward on their own and say, "Look, I'm really concerned. I really would like some kind of accommodation to help me, and here's and if it's reasonable and we can meet it, then we'd like to see what we can do to support getting through the situation." So that's the kind of discussion we're going to have with GFT to make sure we're on the same page. Right. What we don't need is to have to be battling on some of these issues when we're all trying to really figure out how to make this work.
Right. Commodities was my other question.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk about this. So, and I apologize to the general public because the information changes as we go along. But the recent information we put out is that at least for the next 3 Thursdays, from 6 to 10 a.m. at Tejan baseball field and at the Dedalo Farmers Market, we will be issuing commodities as well for households in need of food support. And that includes both a bag of commodities, and then it also includes a box of fresh fruits from the Farm to Families program. So that'll be one bag and one box for each household, and we'll be taking people need to bring their IDs and answer a few questions just in terms of what village you're from and so forth. But the big change was we were supposed to revert back to our more limited program. But the staff were really creative and resourceful over the last week because we realized that with the unemployment benefits just starting to come in, there are many families there that still are going to be needing significant support. So we worked with our USDA office to work on looking at our eligibility framework for families to be able to take advantage of the commodities, and we raised it from 150% of poverty to 400% of poverty, and that's similar to other states, including Alaska and some states on the West Coast as well. So we got the approval to do that, and this will help us, be able to expand our supports for families who need that food support, and without going through a lot of paperwork. I think I would say most households on Guam would qualify for the support, and we did send some information out, including those income caps. But if you look at those income caps, those are monthly income caps. Those are, I think we can see most families meeting that threshold.
I wanted to follow up on the grab and go. I know it's up until summer, but what happens when the school year starts and you have the three options, some who are under the home learning online instruction option or the hard copy option, and then those that are face-to-face instruction.
Right.
How will meals be distributed?
So the Grab and Go Authority, which is basically supposed to support us through the summer, and so we will go into July 31st. And under the current program, and what we got approved to do was to serve at 12 of our school sites, and to be able to give them out. These are meals for students, but also serving anyone who is, even for anyone aged from 0 to 18. So even if you have young kids who are not yet of school age, they're still eligible. Plus, you don't have to go to a GDOE school. You can be a charter school, private school, a DODEA student to be able to benefit. So that's what's currently in place. When we open the school year, we will be reverting to our normal school breakfast and lunch programs. So that would mean that it will no longer be available, at least for now, and unless we have some other guidance from USDA. But right now, if we revert to that model, the charter schools and private schools and DODEA, the kids below the age of school age would have to go back to a normal situation or through their schools. So what our biggest challenge is to adjust to the alternating schedule. And so what it looks like is that while you're in school, we would want to serve you meals, but we're unlikely to be able to serve it in a cafeteria setting. So I think the biggest change at the school level will be accommodating in classroom eating. So basically, you eat in your classroom, and you'll have to clean up and collect food from there. So that's an operational issue. For those who do not attend school, we do believe that we're looking to confirm whether it's required or whether it's simply allowable to provide meals to those who are not physically at school. But no matter what, I think it's going to be in our interest, and it's going to be our desire to provide food support.
Amen. So
we're looking at ways to do that. So some suggestions have been, looking at the way other states have responded, there might be an opportunity to put backpacks together, or bags together for students to bring home, that day that they are at school, be able to provide some food support that they can bring home for the days when they're home. Otherwise, we'll have to look at maybe some kind of similar grab and go situation. But those are the discussions that we're currently having. I think we want to provide food, but the mechanism is going to be much different than normal. So we'll keep working on that and let everybody know as we come to a solution.
And just one final question with transportation and busing. Where are we with that in talks with Public Works?
So those are ongoing. So a lot of that really depends on finalizing the schedule. So again, we're finalizing the schedule as we go. Definitely by June, we should be able to have the boards go ahead. And then at that point, we can work out the details with the buses.
Yeah.
So
I know
really
that
waiting for us to
Jess
finalize the schedule.
Garcia was on yesterday, the deputy director, and also acting director
of Parks and Rec.
But he was, they still have that responsibility of handling the arriving passengers for quarantine and sending them over to quarantine. And, that's just concerning if they're also going to have to transport students.
Well, Jess has always been a big fan and supporter of our school. So we hope that as we go, as we work out the details, we'll continue that support and help us find a solution to keep to help our kids get to school on time. I mean, again, like we said, we've been talking about this conceptually. We're trying to nail it down and finalize it. But once we do, then we'll get down to looking at the routes, mapping it out, and making sure that we can operationally support or at least be able to anticipate, what the challenges might be. So, I guess with the lower numbers of students going to school every day, that'll be an advantage to be able to transport them on a timely basis. But again, I think it's going to be a route-to-route review, because some of our routes are going to be definitely more oversubscribed than others.
Right.
John, I just wanted to go back. You said that those people who are going to be getting commodities on Thursday, they need to bring an ID and answer a few questions. Is that is that to fulfill the requirements of USDA, or just so people know and they're not surprised?
Yeah, it's just an accountability measure, and it's just basic information. So I think it's bring an ID, and then you'll be asked, what village are you from, and how many in your household, and things like that. It won't be, prior to this, there was going to be, if we reverted back to our normal program, that has more strict, income limits.
Right.
And so you'd have to go through more, forms that need to be filled out before we can get commodities. So I'm glad to avoid some of that paperwork. The questions that I saw that were going to be asked are pretty simple, straightforward, and not very intrusive. Just basic information to ensure that that you met the requirements and that we're giving it out per household. So every household is entitled to, no matter what size your household is, in this case, to a bag and a box of food support. And so we're just trying to track the households. I believe that every vehicle you're able to as long as you're the head of the household, you can carpool and you can still get benefit as long as you can provide that verification.
Are there going to be any income type questions asked on this form, John?
If it is, it's just going to be do you qualify under this list? But if you say the income list that'll be provided, it's not. I mean, these limits are just really they're going to be, most households, if not all households, are going to be able to be accommodated under the increase that we put in place. So I think for a single person household, you have to earn $5,000 a month or less to qualify.
Oh, that's a high one.
Yeah, so that's much higher than it was before. So
just so people know, if because this hasn't been done before, right? They don't normally get asked questions.
Well, just typical screening questions. But in the regular program, if you're supposed to be SNAP or WIC eligible, so then that would be important. I think my staff's telling me actually right now, they're listening along, that all they need is an ID. I do think they'll be asked what village, but no income questions.
Okay,
right confirmed. On. So
right, there you go.
Yeah, so there you go. So just bring your ID, and please, I know it's crowded. I know that you get long lines, but we really want to make sure that if you need support, then please come out. I also want to let those out there who may have issues getting transportation to please call your mayor's offices. We call the mayors. They've been very helpful and as partners in trying to meet the need of their residents who are unable to get to the sites. And so we've been able to work through the mayors. They've been able to kind of identify the households, and they'll do all the verifications needed. And then they've been good at supporting those who need help with the transportation of the food.
Well, John, thank you for your time. Always got a ton of information that is so valuable to our listeners, and also thank your staff for listening. Really appreciate it.
Well, we'll have more and more information as we get to it.
All right. We're ready to receive it.
Thank you.
And I gotta say, I just appreciate that, since we started talking and before the COVID, that your center has always been to try and help the people who need help. And I just really appreciate that. That's very consistent with you. Every time we talk to you, it always comes up. And, with what you're able to do with this commodities and the grab and go, and your staff, of course, don't want to let the staff go unrecognized. I just want to say I appreciate it because it's refreshing,
If I could echo that, I just want to say that our staff, our most of our employees work with kids every single day. And I think what happened when we shut down and we started going through this process, the first thought they had was the kids, knowing where our kids come from, knowing the issues they deal with, knowing our families. The biggest thrust of our efforts is to figure out how to give them support while they're not in school. So we hope that it's helping, and then we'll see how it goes through the summer.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Wash your hands.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. 919, Superintendent John Fernandez. We'll just keep going.
Okay.
Let's do some news here. Of course, we had Lieutenant Governor Josh kind of threw our schedule a little bit off in the 8 o'clock hour, but a lot of great news I want you guys to know about. So let's do a dive into the day's COVID-19 headlines. Again, from the KUAM News team here on Containing COVID with the very latest. Sabrina Salas-Mantanani, good morning.
Howdy, everybody. We start with the latest numbers. Public Health tested 103 individuals for COVID on Monday, and 2 tested positive. The number of COVID cases on Guam has risen to 224 with 5 deaths, 173 recoveries, and 46 active cases. Meanwhile, during a press conference at Adelup on Monday, military officials offered little information about 35 service members of a deployed Air Force unit who recently tested positive for the coronavirus. An unknown number of them apparently broke with restricted movement protocol and left the Reef Hotel where they were staying to patronize local businesses. How many, where, and when? Officials say they're still trying to trace that. Nestor Lecanto reports.
Joint Region Marianas Commander Admiral John Minoni.
There are investigations ongoing, both public health and a command investigation, which will shed light on how and why this situation happened. Today, we don't have all the facts as to how and why, so it would be counterproductive to speculate.
And Anderson 36th Wing Commander Brigadier General Gentry Boswell.
Preliminary evidence in the public health investigation revealed the possibility that some of these members may not have adhered to the Anderson or local public health directives. If the ensuing investigation determines that members did not follow these directives in a disciplined manner, I can assure you they will be held accountable for their actions under the Uniform Code of Military Justice.
But the threat of exposure is out there, and military officials are working with public health to trace any contacts. But they can't say where they're looking or how many service members may have breached restricted movement protocol. General Boswell, citing operational security, would also not say where the unit came from or how many there are. He also could not say if they contracted the virus here or before they arrived. What he would say is that before this large cluster, their COVID screening process on Anderson was working.
We're pretty confident that our process works. It's the disciplined adherence to the protocols that will be the scope of the investigation.
We're constantly evaluating our processes and procedures to ensure we've got it right. There's never been a time that I know of in the military that we've had it perfect the first time. So we continually work through this.
All of the unit members have been tested and remain in isolation or quarantine on Anderson, where they were moved after the first case showed up. Meanwhile, Public Health's Linda DeNorsi says more than 70 workers from the Reef Hotel are also being tested. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
And here's more from that press conference as Nestor continued to press for answers.
My question is for General Boswell. General, from what we've been able to gather, there was a deployment from Dyess Air Force Base in Texas to Anderson in early May. 3 B-1 bombers and 200 servicemen to support that mission, although a fourth bomber went to Japan, I believe, before that, and then came to Guam. Can you tell us if this is the unit that we are talking about here? And also, when they arrived, were they made aware or even ordered to abide by restricted movement protocol? And apparently, did they disobey that order?
So let me start. The Bomber Task Force is not the unit we were discussing. They redeployed 2 weeks ago. But to answer your second question, all military units coming into Guam, no matter what their service, are required to follow our public health protocols. There is a reception process regardless of where they come through Juan Pat, whether they come through the port or whether they come through our air base. So for us, we know the process of bringing them in is one of the things we're evaluating. But based on the fact that we've gone 4 months with only 4 cases in our population, we're pretty confident that our process works. It's the disciplined adherence to the protocols that will be the scope of the investigation.
So if you have advised them of the restricted movement protocol in particular, and they disobeyed that, so that they would be subject, as you said earlier, to the Military Code of Justice. So where is this unit from, and how many in the unit?
We're not going to discuss that. As I mentioned in my statement, we're not going to mention any of that due to operational security concerns.
As a result of what may have happened, and this could go to Admiral Minoni as well as JRM, are you planning any changes, modifications to the policy with respect to restricted movement, in particular for units that are deployed from out of Guam who come here?
Sir, we're we're working closely with the government of Guam and Department of Public Health, and we're constantly evaluating our processes and procedures to ensure we've got it right. There's never been a time that I know of in the military that we've had it perfect the first time. So we continually work through this, and we're teaming with Department of Public Health, the local government, the different bases to make sure we evaluate this over and over to make sure we get it as best and as tight as possible.
And if I can.
Okay. Earlier on our show, we spoke with Public Health, Annette Uggan from the contact tracing team at DPHSS, and she did indicate that there are at least 14 businesses that some of these service members may have visited while they were supposed to be on restricted movement. And we're also told that it looks like we're looking at about 130 service members that are in this particular unit that was deployed here. Despite the surge of 35 positive cases among military personnel, the governor still plans to reopen tourism next month. She says the metrics such as 0 hospitalizations and a rolling average of infections that's below the threshold still support it. To help launch the reopening of tourism, an island-wide cleanup campaign is scheduled for Saturday, and a press conference will be held with Lieutenant Governor at 11:30 today. Expanded testing, meanwhile, continues today. The testing, which is free, will be held at the GPD Police Coban parking lot next to the Barragata Community Center from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. Then tomorrow, Wednesday, at the Agana Heights Mayor's Office, and Thursday in Jotnya at the parking lot between St. Francis Church and School. Again, testing is from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. It is free, and you do not have to have symptoms to get tested. Just bring an ID. The first batch of PUA payments have been processed. According to the Guam Department of Labor, the total amounts to $35 million for claims that were filed between May 30th and June 1st. Electronic transfers and paper checks will be issued to error-free claims on a first-in, first-out basis. GDOL has advised those who have issues with their claims to email pua.hotline@dol.guam.gov. If claimants have already emailed, the PUA team will respond as soon as they can. The department has noted there is currently a high volume of inquiries at this time. The Guam Department of Education State Agency for the Emergency Food Assistance Program will be distributing food boxes this Thursday and every other Thursday thereafter. This will allow for time to restock and replenish food commodity supplies. This Thursday's distribution sites are the Teedson Upper Baseball Field and the Dededo Farmers Market from 6 a.m. to 10 o'clock in the morning. The governor, during a press conference on Monday, provided an update on the status of hardened shelters for the island's homeless. She also provided her reasons behind the transfer of John Birch as director of Parks and Recs to the Guam Ancestral Lands Commission. Birch last week in an interview told KUAM he gave the order to kick out homeless out of public parks such as Paseo so that they can clean the parks to prepare to usher in tourists to rebuild the island's economy.
Governor, what's your comment on the investigative subcommittee being formed by the U.S. House Ethics Committee to probe into allegations against Delegate Michael Saniclas? In a separate posting that you might have seen, he also wrote a Father's Day message. He said in that posting, "I'm firmly resolved to shorten this labor of love if the people of Guam do not resoundingly change out of the incompetence of local leadership." What's your comment on these developments and that message that was sent to the people of Guam by the delegate?
So, my comment is it is a very serious situation when you form a subcommittee to investigate allegations. So I'm very concerned about that. I really don't have any position either way, only that the process will go through. And whatever the recommendations are from that subcommittee, it will be then referred to the greater committee, and then decisions will be made. I do hope, for the sake of the congressman, that this goes by quickly so that there can be answers. I think that he needs to be accountable to the people of Guam in terms of whatever the findings are. And lastly, I don't really believe in this whole incident and in this whole administration since we've started, and also with the senators, that there are incompetent leaders. I think everyone who has been elected to public office are serving in the best interest of the people of Guam. We are working very hard here to get through this COVID, and we have been communicating very closely with the federal government. I myself have been working very closely with the White House. I know that Speaker Barnes has been working very closely with the National State Legislative Council. I know that our directors, most of them have been working very closely with their agencies. I know Dave De La Sola has been working very closely with the U.S. Department of Labor. I know Daphne has been working very closely with the U.S. Treasury. And these are competent leaders, and these are leaders that have brought results to the people of Guam. As a result of the hard work of our DOL here through Dave De La Sola, we stood up a pandemic unemployment insurance program in a matter of 12 weeks, which, by the way, the U.S. has already been in this program for.
Airport Executive Manager Tom Atta has resigned from his position, the governor in a press release stating, "It is with a heavy heart that Josh and I acknowledge the resignation of Tom Atta as executive manager of the Guam International Airport Authority. Tom's competence and counsel were essential to our COVID-19 response, and he will be sorely missed. He has dedicated decades of his life in service to the people of Guam, and I support his continued commitment to his family and grandchildren. Tom is a dear friend, and his work to make life better for our people is greatly appreciated." There was no reason provided as to why he resigned suddenly. Governor Lulian Guerrero, in the meantime, sounding off on the ongoing U.S. House Ethics Investigative Subcommittee probe into Guam Delegate Michael St. Nicholas and his recent Father's Day message on local issues. He wrote in part, quote, "I am firmly resolved to shorten this labor of love if the people of Guam do not resoundingly change out the incompetence of local leadership."
Initially, what we wanted to do.
Governor, what's your comment on the investigative subcommittee being formed by the U.S. House Ethics Committee to probe into allegations against Delegate Michael St. Nicholas? In a separate posting that you might have seen, he also wrote a Father's Day message. He said in that posting, "I'm firmly resolved to shorten this labor of love if the people of Guam do not resoundingly change out of the incompetence of local leadership." What's your comment on these developments and that message that was sent to the people of Guam by the delegate?
So, my comment is it is a very serious situation when you form a subcommittee to investigate allegations. So I'm very concerned about that. I really don't have any position either way, only that the process will go through. And whatever the recommendations are from that subcommittee, it will be then referred to the greater committee, and then decisions will be made. I do hope, for the sake of the congressman, that this goes by quickly so that there can be answers. I think that he needs to be accountable to the people of Guam in terms of whatever the findings are. And lastly, I don't really believe in this whole incident and in this whole administration since we've started, and also with the senators, that there are incompetent leaders. I think everyone who has been elected to public office are serving in the best interest of the people of Guam. We are working very hard here to get through this COVID, and we have been communicating very closely with the federal government. I myself have been working very closely with the White House. I know that Speaker Barnes has been working very closely with the National State Legislative Council. I know that our directors, most of them have been working very closely with their agencies. I know Dave De La Sola has been working very closely with the U.S. Department of Labor. I know Daphne has been working very closely with the U.S. Treasury. And these are competent leaders, and these are leaders that have brought results to the people of Guam. As a result of the hard work of our DOL here through Dave De La Sola, We stood up a pandemic unemployment insurance program in a matter of 12 weeks, which, by the way, the U.S. has already been in this program for 80 years. So how competent is that? That is true competency. So the statements that Congressman Mike Nicholas has said about the competency of the leaders here is totally incorrect, very untruthful, and I think he should apologize to the people of Guam for that statement that he has made. And what that has done is it has put doubt on the people of Guam's trust for our leaders. Our leaders here work hard, and I expect our federal leaders to do the same.
In national news, the Trump administration announcing it is complying with Washington, D.C.'s Phase 2 reopening. This comes as the White House is pushing back on criticism about a comment President Trump made during his rally in Oklahoma this past weekend, as well as the size of the crowd that showed up to hear the president speak. Skylar Henry reports.
For the first time in months, reporters did not have their temperatures checked as they entered the White House. The White House says those in close proximity to the president will still be checked. This comes after President Trump said he isn't happy about the increasing number of coronavirus cases in the country.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
Democrats say they will ask members of the coronavirus task force about the president's statement when they testify before Congress tomorrow. But the White House says he was joking.
That was tongue-in-cheek.
Democratic challenger Joe Biden pounced on the comment, tweeting, "Speed up the testing." CBS News has learned the president was also frustrated and angry at the attendance at his first campaign rally since the coronavirus outbreak.
We begin our campaign, and I just want to thank all of you. You are warriors.
A little more than 6,000 people showed up for Saturday's event, well short of the 19,000 capacity. Trump campaign manager Brad Parscale boasted online about receiving 1 million requests for tickets.
That guy who used to be on our show would have been furious that something went haywire.
In my interactions with the president after the rally on Marine One with him, I checked in with him on Air Force One, and he was in very good spirits. Spoke with him again about the rally yesterday, and it's got rave reviews.
President Trump heads to a rally in Phoenix tomorrow, while Arizona is seeing a fast-growing number of coronavirus cases. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
In your Banking 671 report, the University of Guam invites the community to utilize its newly developed Guam Recovery web portal. It's guamrecovery.com. It's free. It's a one-stop resource to assist with the safer, more efficient reopening of Guam's economy. The site, built in collaboration with tourism stakeholders, consolidates relevant and up-to-date minute information from official sources. The site is launching as Guam's tourism industry prepares to welcome guests back beginning July 1st. The portal curates timely news about the pandemic status in Guam, travel requirements for Guam, and source markets, reopening guidelines, sanitation and workforce information, as well as the economy. That is your Banking 671 report, sponsored by the Bank of Guam and Coast 360. And finally, we're very honored to be a part of this year's Relay for Life, as we've been for many years, and with 2020 being a particularly difficult time where we can't all do the fun activities together, our spirit and focus remain strong in battling cancer on our island. And so we've come up with the KUAM Dance Challenge. You can find the song on our Facebook page. It is from our former coworker, KC Savage K Conception, who performed Live Life Alive.
Never give up, never stay down, stand back up, put your feet on the ground. We all know we must fight to survive, so live life alive, it's alright. Never give up, never stay down, stand back up, put your feet on the ground. We all know we must fight to survive, so live life alive, it's alright. Never give up.
Again, join the fight against cancer. Send us your video to KUAM Dance Challenge at KUAM.com. We will be combining your submissions for a special montage of all of us doing the same dance with the same spirit, so get your clips in today. And don't forget to watch the virtual Relay for Life on June 27th on KUAM TV8 and our digital platforms at 6:30 p.m. And that's your news.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe. Keeping you informed, KUAM News brings you Banking 671, brought to you by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank, and Coast 360 Federal Credit Union. Together, we thrive.
KUAM News COVID-19 Takeover on I-94 FM is presented locally by Ambrose Inc.
GU Self-Storage, conveniently located near the Harmon McDonald's. We offer affordable rates, online payments, and auto bill pay for your convenience. Plus gate access daily from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Call us today at 648-7867 for more information.
With the new challenges we're all facing, First Hawaiian Bank wants to make sure you have access to your financial world. With FHB Online and our mobile app, we hope to make banking the least of your worries. Visit fhb.com/digital.
We hope that you and your loved ones are safe and healthy during the COVID-19 pandemic. It has been a challenging time for all, but now, more than ever, our cancer patients and caregivers need us. Although we are apart, we stand united in the fight against cancer. The American Cancer Society Guam is excited to announce our first virtual Relay for Life. Join us on Saturday, June 27th at 6:30 p.m. on KUAM TV8, as well as on I-94 FM and streaming on KUAM News digital platforms. Cancer does not stop, and neither can we. On June 27th, let's celebrate together and fight cancer. Visit relayforlife.org/GuamGU to find out how you can participate in the 2020 virtual Relay for Life Guam.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
It's not always easy trying something new. Sometimes you have to help your loved ones along. Nana is so used to her weekly trips to the bank that going online can be a little scary for her. But her grandson knows that banking online is safer and easier. So he's teaching her how to get started using Bank of Guam's online banking videos. Teaching is one way to show our loved ones we care. Keep your family safe at home and show them how to bank online. Find easy-to-use online banking tutorials at bankofguam.com or on our Instagram and Facebook pages. Bank of Guam, member FDIC.
Be healthy. Be informed with ITD.
do, right?
Come and get your love.
Good morning.
Come and get your love. Come and get your
It's Containing COVID, where we go in, always try to come out of the end of this show with more answers than we started it with. And we got a lot of answers from the Department of Public Health. I think that was probably the most info. The best info. It's the most best info.
More info from the press conference?
Yeah. That's what I love about, press conference, really, what can you accomplish with one question and one follow-up, So it's always great to get people on the show here where Bree and I can just really, I don't know why I did that, really go in and ask the questions that need to be asked. 9:49, we're going to jam as much as we can in the last 12 minutes of the show. I want to bring John De La Rosa from the Guam Community College on. There was an email that went out. GCC is going to be doing a morning, John.
Hi, John.
Morning. Hi, guys.
Could you speak up a little bit? Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
I
There
could,
you
yeah.
go.
So you guys are doing let me get this straight, John, a motorcade graduation?
Yeah, it's a lot like the high schools have been doing. Is you drive up in your car, the graduates can get out and receive their diplomas and then drive off. So we initially when the coronavirus happened, we decided that we were going to postpone our May graduation, and so we decided to move it to December just so we knew that we could plan a real commencement ceremony. But then we did a survey of our students, and a lot of them wanted something sooner than that. They wanted to get their certificates and degrees. So we thought instead of doing something virtual, we could do something where we could actually physically give them the degrees, but also just make sure everyone stays safe and we comply with all the requirements. So that's what we came up with.
So how much work are you guys putting into the staying safe part and meeting the requirements? Is that already done?
It's done. You mean for the graduation?
Yeah.
For the graduation, when the students and their families come on campus, we're restricting them to one car. So if you have a 5-passenger car, it's a graduate and 4 people. We already know of a couple people who've rented vans, so it'd be 15 of them, right? But they stay in the car while on campus, and only the graduates allowed to come out. And anyone who leaves the car has to wear a mask. So we're being as cautious as we can. Yeah.
How many graduates are there?
So of the 246 who actually qualify, 128 decided to do this. This one, and that doesn't mean that they can't walk into commencement in December as well. So.
What was the thinking, John? Or most of these people want to just get it done earlier, maybe because they're trying to go to school in the fall or something? Was that mostly what you'd heard, or they just wanted to get it done?
So for most of the ones that are participating, they said they wanted to do both. And for this one, they wanted to get their degree, right? They wanted to physically get their paper. And there were a few that said they were going to not be on Guam anymore. They were going to move off island. And we wanted to make sure that they got a ceremony of some sort. But we're really glad that the majority of them wanted to do both.
Right.
So.
All right. I guess now that we got you on and we've done the motorcade grad, what do people who are graduating, what do they need to do? What do they need to know? Where do they need to go?
So we have been in contact with all of the graduates, whether they're in this one or not. But the ones that are in this one, we've already told them you got to get your cap and gown. The bookstore is open and available for that. They just have to make sure that they've cleared all of their outstanding requirements, and they've cleared all of that. And they just have to show up, decorate their cars, bring their festive attitudes, and get their degrees. And we are also live streaming this, by the way, on our Facebook.
Yeah, we'll be sharing that. We'll be sharing the link.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's cool. John, we got a couple minutes. Anything you can tell us about, resuming classes in the fall?
Yes. Actually, we are doing summer classes now fully online, and some of the graduates some of the second year students that are unable to graduate right now, it's because they're in the programs like automotive, culinary. They need hands-on stuff. So we're making arrangements to make sure they can complete those in the safest and most compliant way possible, right? So we're hoping that we can get them done through the summer as more restrictions get lifted. But if not, we have been spending the summer getting the campus ready. So we have adjusted class sizes. We have ordered plexiglass barriers. We are doing a mix of in-class mirror classes, 2 classrooms to accommodate 1 class per subject. And we're also allowing kids to join classes online, so live streaming, and they'll be counted as fully enrolled. So we're very confident that we'll have all our programs up and running for the fall.
All right, sounds good.
We have one more thing I wanted to let people know is we just launched a grant program from DOI. It was actually started through the Lieutenant Governor's office that we are providing for the first year free for a culinary and a hotel management course, tourism and hotel management course. For the first 20 students who qualify and apply, they will actually get their first year paid by DOI. So if there are interested students out there, there are still available vacancies for that. So please come and apply.
Right on.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Hey, thank you, John. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, take care.
Wash your hands.
Bye-bye. Always.
Okay. 9:54. That's cool. That's a lot of stuff going on Saturday. So that's the Motorcade Grad GCC Saturday. That's this
cleanup.
Saturday. The cleanup.
Mm-hmm. The virtual relay for life. Yeah. Lots of stuff.
Right. And so with the cleanup, Lieutenant Governor said they're still looking for some volunteers.
Mm-hmm. And they're holding the press conference at 11:30, I want to say, and that's being I think it's being streamed. So you'll be able to get information on how you can volunteer.
But again, it's going to be a huge one. And just talking to some of our Gov Guam friends, it looks like they've divided up certain areas according to agency. Like, I know that my buddy Nick Lee over at Guam EPA had said that Guam EPA is going to be handling from... they're doing a stretch down by Big Navy. So, yeah, Navy Gate to the fuel farm. So, that's cool. I'm pretty sure they're mobilizing a lot of government in Guam. So, let's go. Let's do it. Like Dr. Akimoto says, not Gus Gus Guam.
That's right.
Let's clean our area. Whether or not the tourists come. You know what I mean? Yeah, we're trying to reopen tourism on July 1st. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but at least our island will be clean.
Right.
Right?
So they're going to be cleaning, Governor Joseph Flores Memorial Park, that's Ipao Beach Park, Matapeng Beach Park, Paseo, Fort Apugan, Laddystone Park, San Antonio Bridge, Serena Park, Fisheye Park, Inarajan Pools, and Fort Soledad. And I think it's not just picking up trash and stuff. They're going to be painting. They're going to be doing everything.
They're going to be cutting grass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And LT had mentioned there's an area there, Wolford Heights, Malolo. They did. It was... it looks very clear now, but what I liked before. I'm talking about, if you guys, any Southerners, what's up, South, Chaggy South, going up the hill towards Malolo, there used to be that the trees kind of created this canopy, so you were a little bit in this like nature tunnel, but they cleared off both sides now, so it's definitely more wide open.
Mm-hmm. And even though, we're talking about these public beach parks, you may have heard in previous interviews that everybody is actually just encouraged, whether you're a business or you're at home, to just step outside and do your part to keep our island clean.
Yeah, clean your front yard, rake. 9:57, as we always do every day, we try and recognize someone in the community who's doing good works. We call it our Good Note segment, and sometimes we get people who do so many good works that they're featured more than once. Like our friends at Kodu Cares. I mean,
Yeah.
that have been like 3 times. It's
Even
great.
PPE
PPE
Guam.
for Guam. That's right. There's so many, and so we want to bring Lonnie Girl from the Giving Tree on to talk about. You guys did this cool thing. It was like a Father's Day thing, and I saw it on social media. You guys are really busy on the social media. Lonnie, good morning. So we're gonna play the vids, but just tell us what was the from start to finish, the thinking behind this. What went into it, and the reaction that you got.
Good morning.
Morning.
Hi. Okay. So thank you for having me. What we did for Father's Day is we had a Father's Day event. It was called Digging with Daddy. And we actually used that event to kick off our community garden curriculum. And what we had done is we had reached out to the mayors of, we have 3 centers. So we have one in Jigo, Dadido, and Tumon. And we've reached out to Tumating Mayor, Jigo Mayor, and Dadido Mayor and asked if there was a place in the community, in the village, where we could create a community garden for the kids in the village, not just from the Giving Tree, but just the kids in the village to come out and, bond over some dirt and seeds and, just be out there with their families any day of the week to kind of plant and just learn more about growing their own food and agriculture. And we had a good response. We have, the support from Mayor Rudy in Jigo, and also from Tumating Mayor Louise. They gave us a spot, and so with Digging It with Daddy. Hello?
Oh, we're here.
Okay, with Digging with Daddy, our first spot that we did was the one at the Jigo Senior Center, and so it was nice. We set up some beds, some garden beds. We had some seeds, all the materials that we needed, and we had some parents come out, some dads come out and plant some seeds to do the groundbreaking on this curriculum.
This is really cool where you used something like a community garden to give dads some shine. I'm a big dadvocate. So good. That's why I wanted to bring you on. I thought it was really neat how you were able to get a lot of birds with that stone.
Yeah, well, it was a curriculum that we were starting on before the whole COVID thing happened.
Right.
And then, that happened. So we used the time off or out of school, out of daycare, to be linking up with our mayors and getting all the things together to prepare for it. And usually on Father's Day, we have an event inside the center, like we do like a Dad's Depot, and we have them build together like small, small birdhouses or something like almost like the Home Depot. But because of the COVID, we can't have any parents or, a large group of people in the center. So we thought, let's bring it outside and let's go kick off this curriculum and have, Dad come out and plant some vegetables and flowers with their kids. And it was nice. It really was.
And that's why I wanted to bring you on. Again, Lonnie, it's the Giving Tree, and I think it's because you guys keep giving back to the community. So thank you again, and just know that you're our COVID hero for the day.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sabrina.
Thank you.
All right, I'll let you go. Get back to watching them kids
All right.
and wash your hands.
Bye. Have a good day.
You too, Lonnie. All right.
Bye.
10:01. Good job today, Sabrina.
Good job.
Our digital team, Jacob Sablon, and of course, the very talkative Jason Solis. Bree, anything you want to throw out there before we go?
No, just want to thank everybody for listening and watching and viewing and streaming. And don't forget, keep Guam clean.
There you go. Nagosgos Guam. And also, be safe out there, guys. Very disturbing news from public health that these airmen were out gallivanting all over, touching stuff, So just be safe, seriously, okay? Until we get that info. We're going to get that info one way or another.
Wear your mask.
All right. My name is Chris for Sabrina. Good job today. Adios!